Sup y'all, Valk here. You guys already know, every time I show up like this, we're either here to do a tournament or talking about something serious. No tournament today, but don't worry, not like we had Gamergate 9000 in the community this week, but I will be out of town on family business, so today's video will be a mini town hall we did a few weeks ago, back when Pirate Captain Flan's buff first got canned. I managed to put together a podcast of past, current, and future legend players together on a single call, and even more in the Twitch chat talking about the balance of the game and some of our concerns. At the end, we even got people in chat to call on to yap about their concerns and changes they want to see to the game. And if you guys have even more to add, feel free to put that in the comment section and I'll do what I can to forward them to Smilegate. Anyway, your regularly scheduled RT as well as new player content will resume presumably a week or two following this. Enjoy the town hall. Thank you boys for joining me today. I think it's a pretty good time. We kick things into gear. We had a lot going on this week in the community. One pretty big thing was that we had one character taken off the buff list, and that actually started a lot of stuff in the community. So I wanted to grab as many people as I can to kind of address that a little bit. I want to talk about some game balance stuff, where you guys are. And honestly, I think we're gonna be up here yapping for about 40 to 50 minutes, and then bring up some people from chat so we can have an honest discussion about what is going on in the game, because this is supposed to be a really hype part of the game right now. You know, 6th anniversary, we're getting an insane amount of rewards. Definitely feel like the vibe a little bit has been soured in the community because of what happened this week. So, you know, talk about it a little bit. And at the end of Town Hall, I want to bring some people up. Anybody that has opinions, by the end, just hop up on, like in the AFK section to the Discord. I'll drag you guys up one by one and just talk about what you guys think, like, the balancing is in this game. Is it good or bad? And the direction they should go into for the future.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, that sounds good, yeah?
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
Divine, why is your name Vic's wife?
I had a joke. I got all my jokes out early. I was just like, I literally went, all right, post a joke in chat. All right, do this thing, you put our names up. I was like, all right, perfect joke there. I got to get all my jokes out of my system.
Okay.
So we could have a coherent. If you didn't notice, I was going to drop one more, but I'll save it for another time.
You'll say, oh, okay, all good, bro, all good. Okay, so I mean, let's start with the freebie, right, guys? Was PFlan actually a nerf? You know, I brought in players from all different types of playstyle, right? I play almost exclusively fast playstyle. Ace Trainer is a very slow standard player. And Vic, I would say, is a good mixture of everything, and Divine's just a game designer. So we got somebody representing all sides of the argument here.
Yeah, who wants to take it away first?
I guess I'll start. So if you're focused on...
I can't read, so go ahead.
If you're focused on P-Flans like previous S2 with the damage sharing, I mean, there's so many other forms of mitigation nowadays that you have Senya, backlining, protecting P-Flan, or BM haste anchoring. You're almost always going to be drafting mid, or else you'll have like Para Escort or something, or Conk Vigor, right? So that part is definitely not a nerf, right? And then you have the Soulburn S1 that people were focused on. Oh, you're losing the extra turn. But the amount of damage you're doing with Death Break into Bomb, like, there is just no way that's a nerf either.
Yeah, it's like, you know, they take one thing away, but they're also adding like a whole nother side. In terms of like revising her entire kit, basically. And I think a lot of people thought of it as a nerf, which I think is pretty fair. Like, if you just wake up and you go on Stove and you read it at first, it definitely reads like a nerf, because you're like, oh shit, like she's losing 50F, or she's losing, you know, an extra turn, and all the ways that you're already currently playing her. But I think a lot of the focus was shifted away from like how people would be playing her moving forward, in terms of like, you know, abusing like the opponent and having any buffs. And yeah, I mean, it's a great point about like what AT said too, in terms of like the mid. It's not like it's not like back when like SSB, right, where like you had that damage transfer passive. Like, no one really played PFlan with that premise, right? It was always like debuff control, you know, stack the bombs and whatnot, right? So I think there's definitely a little bit of confusion in terms of where the focus should be, but I'll leave it at that for now.
Yeah, Divine?
Yeah, I'll make this a little bit more straightforward for everyone who's fucking stupid like me. Now, I would normally never say this language, and I don't really condone it. And I see you're already ready to hit me with the server mute, but
I was
I gotta
pumping up your volume, my guy.
I would normally never use this language. I would normally never say this, But this is the one time I'm gonna break character to do so. Damn, nigga, just read. It wasn't that fucking hard. I mean, like, you didn't even have to read. Everything that was in her kit that she had before that they took away, they just put someplace else. Like, you could have just, like, recognized that, like, a couple symbols that were somewhere else just went somewhere else. It's also, like, they took away the extra turn, and they put in defense break. And I'm like, damn, nigga, like, half this game is defense break. Like, every time, like, half this game is, like, bro, get attack buff, get defense break, blow up their spot. Like, that's, like, every fucking strategy. Are you going for turn 30? Great, this shit still works. Get over there with fucking, Albedo. Oh, are you going turn 1? Great, Ran, break, defense breaks, gives attack buff, fucking blow them up. Like, that's every strategy in every part of this game, everywhere. It was the most universal buff they could do. It's the exact same reason they did that shit to fucking Shooting Star Arcades, where she was, like, kind of cool and kind of quirky, like that one girl in high school. They shut that shit the fuck down. They were like, you give attack buff now. No more fun, no more variants, no more of this random bullshit. Stop being quirky, go do a fucking job. So yeah, that's really it to me. I mean, like, if you...
Yeah, I mean, I think you put it best, right?
Hard.
So, because I've personally seen a lot of points people are making on Stove, on YouTube, on Reddit.
Oh, we know you have.
Oh, oh shit, I got caught, bro! I got caught! No, but like, it just seems like so many people are so focused on, well, they took it out of her, but, you know, it doesn't do anything for the team, but like, Epic 7 is a team building game. If it doesn't do, if, you know, things a character provides for the team doesn't provide value, like, then how good is a Conqueror Lilius if she doesn't have her team? How good is Sea Phantom Politis without her team? How good is Death Dealer Ray without his team, right? So any character who's not Navy Captain Landy, Abyssal Euphem's just worthless? Like, is that your point? Right? Like, that just doesn't really make sense in the scope of Epic 7, which is, this is 100% a team building game, right?
I think the French brought up a good point. I think you saw them speak up about their opinions of Valky, but you know, fucking, you know, Kukerbat was talking about it recently, and he was just like, yeah, we have like a scourge of fucking knights that just do more than any other characters in the game right now. Like, they've just raised the level of what a unit needs to do to be tenable, and I think we've kind of gotten brain cuck-washed by, like, Pirate Captain Flan not doing enough, or, like, certain units not, like, bringing something to the table, and then deciding their whole team is coming along for the fucking ride, too.
Yeah, I think very importantly, too, right? It's that right now, some people seem really confused. Like, she's a character that's pretty much not played at all by a lot of people who like her. Like, in fact, I'm a person that really likes Pirate Captain Flan, but I don't play her because there's no reason to play her. She doesn't have any defined strength, right? So when people think a character needs to be buffed, they need to somehow not have any weaknesses. That's not how game balancing works. Game balance doesn't work when you make an invincible character that's just not weak to anything and they're pretty good at what they do. Like, that's release Navy Captain Landy. She kind of fucked up the game, right? You need a character who's really good at something, but also at the same time, they got their weaknesses, right? Funnily enough, my example for that is the meme being Green Machine herself, Green Celine, right? Like, she has weaknesses, but she also have very well-defined strength that puts her at a level where you can pick her, and suddenly people have to think twice about pressing their Sea Phantom Politis, and if they do, there's a chance you just completely tempo them out and win the game. And that's the important thing, right? Is the anti-crit gives her a definitive good matchup into stuff like Genua. The buff steal makes her really good into Blood Moon Haste, and the defense break makes her really good into Empyrean Ilanav, who is kind of, let's be honest, she is kind of a problem in the game at the moment, because you pick her, how do you die? Most characters in the game have some kind of defense pen, right? I was going through my list of my most played characters, like, most of them have some kind of defense pen. Even if you look at characters like Rylet, Roy Mustang, right? Like, they have penetration in their kit. Green Celine, she just loses pen set for fun now, right? Like, penetration set also gets its value taken away. It's just not healthy, right? I don't think Ilanav should have been a character in the first place, but like,
I think I listen. We always disagree, and I know that's because I'm the smarter of the two of us, Falky. And I'm totally looking forward to a future where Poodz' 3F Belian rules everything.
Bro, I looked at Pood's album today. I don't know if you guys have seen it. I know people who are in the Discord a lot of times pay attention to Pood's builds because Pood's is pretty budget friendly because all of his stuff is scuffed. Yo, Poodz doesn't even have a 3F on his 3F Bellion. That bitch is on an Elbrus, man! Yo, I was like, what is you doing, bro? It's so crazy. But, you know, on the topic of, like, if that was a good direction for to take things in, right? I kind of want to swing that a little bit. Like, do you guys think the buff, right? The Pirate Captain Flan buff is like a good direction for them to take things in? Like, is that a healthy direction for the game that you guys want to see?
I think they are cornering themselves in terms of how they need to buff characters to be viable. So it's inevitably already been a direction since Monk was released in the game. Yep. And now that DDR has been buffed, Blood Moon Haste, Senya, that level of oppressiveness in their passive, they need to have characters that control. And even if we don't like debuff meta and 15%, and that's what we're getting into, it's necessary, or else those characters will just completely overwhelm whatever new is being released because of how they punish, like, you killing one of their teammates or killing them, or, you know, it's just so many things that just, you know, contribute value to their draft, right?
Right. So I think you make a really good point, right? Which is, when you release a character, like you release all of these defense penetration characters over the course of 3 years, right? It starts with something like Landy, and then you get, you know, you get, what's the progression like? My timeline's gonna get muddied up here.
Landy,
but like,
Euphine, all the
no. I mean like Green Landy. Like Green Landy,
shit,
you know, Architect Leica, you got Strays, right? You got Galililius coming out, and then you have like Janua, right? Because people who are fast will want to play damage, and people who are slow will want to play tanky, right? That's a natural progression. It makes sense, right? But the issue becomes like, well, once you have all of these damage pen, once, especially like somebody like Janua is in the game, right? And if you don't nerf, like, where are you gonna go? Well, the only way to like really beat that without playing around all of his mechanics that new players might not be familiar with is you need a spot counter like Empyrean Illinev. And now Empyrean Illinev is going to be like the hand that just completely covers the entire game, right? Because now you can't play any damage pen, only one player can, right? That's the issue. One player can't play any damage pen units. It takes so many good units out of the game while the other player gets everything they want, right? And you're getting into a similar situation, especially a high-rank RTA with something like New Moon Luna, where, well, I picked this, so you can't pick any character with good passives, because the moment you start picking good passives, I know you're going to have to ban my first pick, and now you're going to die, right? So, like, what do you do, right? Because, like, it's just, in my opinion, I just think it's lazy balancing, right? That's, at the end of the day, what the issue really is. So, like Ace said, when you have that, you have one of two options. You are either going to release a character who defense breaks and then deals a lot of damage through debuffs and detonate, or you're going to have to release, like, penetration, resistance, which is just, it's just a mechanics arms race, and I don't think anybody actually wants that, right?
Yeah, they literally can't do that.
I think one thing to bring up as well, I think you, Valky, and AT are probably going to be a bit more well versed in this, because I'm a bit relatively newer to RTA. Like the older seasons, like there's kind of like a life cycle of how the meta shifts that I've seen people bring up, right? Like playing like cleave meta and then tank down and then going into control metas and stuff like that. And I think, like, you know, why stray away from that? I don't know. Maybe you guys can add a little bit more talking points to this, because I'm kind of talking out of my ass. But I think, like, debuffs are, you know, 15% is cancer, but I think it's kind of a necessary evil, like, to add to the game for the cycle of the meta, right?
Right, but I think that the topic at hand is, like, was there well, I guess now that the cat's out of the bag, right, with ML Illinev, like, just kind of holding down the meta the way she is there a way to get around that? Or, like, is debuff meta the future of the game, right? Or is this, like, you know, like JFam is saying in chat, right? Nerfs are our last resort. Okay, well, either we have to skew the game into a debuff meta now because that's the only thing we can do, or are we going to nerf this character or change them so that we can play a damage meta again?
It's hard to go back to any sort of damage meta or really aggro meta that doesn't involve debuffs, just because, like, just off the top of my head, I can name like 5 characters that do insane damage that just require you to stop them. DDR, I would include as one. Senya,
Yep.
Janua, Emma Roana, Candy, all the Elverses, right? So yeah, I don't see it shifting away from a control debuff meta anytime soon. And now that we have ML Ilanov synergizing so well with all of these anchors, until they release like 3 different units that punish these sort of pen resist and buff stacking, and like debuff stacking also with DDR synergy, I just don't see how, you know, ML Ilanov alongside all these anchors could be dethroned.
Do we think, like, you know, if we go deeper into a debuff meta, do we think it's like healthy for the game though? That's a pretty important thing I want to cover, right? Because for, you know, people in chat who are coming in and you're not familiar with how debuff meta works, which we're currently kind of in the middle of, it's the reason why Death Dealer Ray is like first picked. If you ever watch E7WC, one side picks Death Dealer Ray, the other side picks Laya, and then you pick all the units that work with Death Dealer Ray, and then you pick all the units that work with Laya, and you're just trying to one up the other, right? That's how games at the highest level go. And it's just, you know, it's not very determinant on draft, because one person, if you get 15% off of some debuffs, you could just die for fun. And for the other person, like, it's just really stressful, right? Like, you're like, I have a winning draft, and I'm just, all I can do about it now is I have to pray I don't get 15% it. Like, is that, you know, do we like that?
I don't think it's that healthy for the meta, but I'm personally biased because as the slower player, and oftentimes I'm reacting in drafts and trying to checkmate with like Laya Monk, or, you know, trying to stop their DDR a Taiwan combo. I'm, like you said, often relying on resetting them. And I can go complete a draft and go into the match feeling like I have the upper hand. And if I lose a 15%, or yeah, it feels really bad. And I just know like there's not much I can do. You know, this is the definitive way from my perspective without speed to like checkmate the DDR draft. Right. And then you get into stuff like ER cheesing with like 300 ER DDR and stuff. And basically that's sort of how I experience the meta right now.
I like to stay consistent, especially with my role here, so I'm ready to give the worst take possible here. I really think that we're suffering through a lot of these problems because we didn't go with the Awaken Potential system.
Okay. I see what we're doing here.
I'm sorry to say, but from like a dev standpoint, you only have so many fucking levers to hit to both move the game forward, create new shit, and shake up the meta. And unfortunately, Awaken Potential and a lot of the bullshit of, I don't know why they canceled the other half of the Awaken Potential system's the funny part. Remember when they were like, we're going to make people 7 stars, and we're going to buff old units. We're like, we hate half of this, and Spalgate throws out the whole thing.
You know, I just want to interrupt you for a second, right? Because like you bring up a really interesting point, which is balancing levers for a game dev, and that gets tagged on a lot to a lot of units that gets buffed or nerfs. I'll give you a really good example, right? Apocalypse Ravi, right? When she got her rework and she can revive, push something to 100 CR, right? The lever in her kit is supposed to be the 30% crit she gets for free in her passive. Now, a balancing lever doesn't necessarily do anything if you don't nerf in the game. Agree? Like in other games, right? When you have a character that's that overwhelming for like a whole year and a half, right?
Yeah.
What's supposed to happen is when they're too broken, you're supposed to take that 30% crit Apocalypse Ravi get and tone it down to like 15%, maybe 10%. Oh, wait, she's still really strong. Okay, let's just take out the crit completely, right? That's what a balancing lever is. And I don't know about putting in balancing levers in a game where it's just like, so we're
We
not
can't
going to
nerf.
nerf anything ever because we don't want to give out like compensation rewards. And I think
I'd
that
still
at the
like
end of the
to.
day is like what holds back a lot of the balancing, right?
Well, because that's my thing. It's just like the awakened potential system was trash, right? It was objectively terrible in a lot of ways, right? But it probably would have delayed us being in this spot for at least a couple months to a year. Now, is that good? Nah, I mean, that's like saying, because I got into this car crash, my relationship with my wife lasted an extra year. But that's
She had to take
still
care
bad.
of me. She had to feed me in bed. I sure enjoyed that one extra year. But like, hey, look, if your marriage is only a 10-year plan, like that don't hurt, right? Agree? I mean, I actually think so. I think if your marriage is the purview of a 10-year plan, and you get into a car crash, and it makes your marriage last a little bit longer, I think that's a net. No, I don't think so. Bro, the awakened potential system was ass. Do we actually like a debuff meta? And I don't know. Like that's what I want. I just want to hear a single yes. Like one person is like, I love playing debuffs. I love seeing red on the other enemy teams, like above their head. I love seeing that red. And if I get 15%, oh well, that's just a part of the game I like.
Okay, so let me put it like this. Let me at least put it like this, right? Debuff meta is really goofy, and it's kind of like trashy to commentate in a fun. There's something innately funny about seeing somebody's tank with like 18 red symbols above their head. There's something inherently fucking, and there's a lot better jokes, right? Like, we did the let's go gambling joke. We could do the high roller joke. We've done the boat joke with fucking Landy to death, right? But, there's a whole new level of access to jokes we get to do off the official streams, right? Because on the official streams, I can't stand up and go actually make a popsicle, right? Like, I think legitimately, fuck Prof Boy, if we get a debuff meta, the next tournament, I'm actually going to start doing cooking tutorials on stream. Like, I'm just going to start fucking showing people how to fucking... my mom got this ice maker, not ice maker, but like an ice cube tray that makes the icicles in the shape of, like, rosebuds. Like, bro, we're going to be cooking with the material. So, like, I'm kind of down. It's trash, but it's kind of down. I'm down with it.
Let me
Yeah,
play
it's
a
like
devil's advocate too after.
Okay, yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Go ahead.
So like I think like from a competitive aspect in terms of like World Cup or like a viewing experience, like a debuff meta is probably not the most ideal, and perhaps at a high stake like that, it's not healthy for the game, like just overall. But I think like having debuff meta like just kind of like running over into like ladder, for example. Like if this entire season we have to play debuff meta and just be subjected to losing in 15%, I mean, if you're still winning the other 85% of the games, I mean, who gives a shit? Like if that's gonna be what like saves the game kind of from this power creep of the new units and the new kits and all the different passives, I'm for it. Like why not? That's my devil's advocate take.
Okay, Ace.
I think it's just awkward when, best case scenario, you debuff the entire other team and they can't really play the game. And it's just you basically controlling the CR economy, controlling every button that you press. And it reminds me of Rance and Caesarea back in the day, right? They don't get to play the game. Or when PFlan Conk was the most prevalent combo in the game, the other side didn't really get to enjoy the game. So in a tournament setting or when it's high stakes, it feels really crappy to be commentating or witnessing. Well, it can be funny. It's kind of an elephant in the room if you just see the whole one side player controlling the entire match. And then for the actual like casual RTA player experience, I guess it's just when you're the other side getting debuff and you're just hoping to eventually take a turn or resist 15%, it does feel like you're not learning much or doing much in terms of the drafts. Because right now, if we see like whoever is the one debuffing the other person, it's likely that the debuffer is the Laya player, and they're cycling the debuff skills alongside Laya's S2. And I guess as the other side, it's the DDR A Taiwan player. They don't have much say in terms of what's going to happen. Like, there's no other character besides Laya that controls cooldown reset, right? And Lua, Monk, Laya, that sort of synergy being prevalent in the game, it just feels like, okay, well, I'm going to have to draft in a way where one of my character cleanses the right debuffs and allows me to Elbrus as the DDR player while I hope for some good RNG. And yeah, it just doesn't feel good as second pick then, you know?
So like as first pick is too stressful, it's not healthy, and it just doesn't feel good as second pick. So it's like it's just not healthy, right? So I guess it's just in a way where the meta's kind of cornered itself, and if we're not going in debuffs, then we're going into like a mechanics arms race. So it's just like a product of the meta. And would you guys all say nerfs would really fix things and help like the game dial it back? And would that make the game fun? Like at the end of the day, right? My main concern is would that make the game fun?
100%. Let me start. Okay, I think nerfs are definitely a necessary evil, and like I don't know how logistically they would do it, but I think just like if I was looking at it just from my perspective, like okay, there's some units that are like kind of overpowered. They've dominated the meta. Like it's a new season. Let's nerf like these 3 characters, but in exchange, like we'll give you, you know, like the return back on the molas that you spent, so you can invest it on a new unit that we're buffing, right?
Yep.
Like I think it's definitely something that they should explore. Like it doesn't mean you have to give them like a galaxy summon ticket. You know, I don't think it has to be that extreme. Unless it's completely unwarranted. But I think if there's units that clearly are, like, for example, look at Candy. Like, how long did it take for us to move away from Candy just completely dominating the meta, right? Like, what if we nerfed Candy, right, after like 2 seasons, and then we made some other characters stronger, changed their kits, but then the main thing is, you know, free-to-play players can't get those resources back. Okay, well, then let's give them the resources back to make the decision whether you want to continue playing that, you know, nerfed character or altered character versus the new characters. So I definitely think they should, moving forward, if they ever are exploring the idea.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I think like a selector as a compensation is like way too much, right? And it's kind of bad that what is it, like 5 years ago now they set the precedent that if an ML5 gets nerfed, you get an ML5 selector, and now, you know, bro, I'm gonna be the villain here because we're in a gacha game community and people always want more stuff, right? Like, bro, gacha game players are hella entitled, and Smilegate, I think, like, for all their faults, has been a very generous company, especially if you look at something like the 6th anniversary rewards. Like, just, it's gonna be really hard to implement because the moment they're like, well, I spend this much money on this thing, I can't believe it's getting nerfed, like, that's not okay, I'm gonna charge back. Like, that's when a game company is gonna like cave and be like, okay, we'll give a selector, right? And I feel like for a lot of people, and this is gonna be a minority of people, right, where we're like, well, I just want to see a fun game, healthy game going forward that's going to have different metas, different characters pop off. That's gonna be hard to do. I'm all for that idea, but dude, people are just too entitled, and I don't think that's ever gonna be a reality.
Let me ask you a question. If someone, Fro said in my chat, if this unit gets nerfed in 3 months, then people will be less inclined to swipe. What is your take on that?
Wait, what did you say?
If a unit is going to be nerfed in 3 months, then people will be less inclined to swipe. What do you think about that?
I thought you said something else. I'm not going to repeat it. I thought I heard something else. I was like, what? Did anyone else hear that? I was like, what? Okay, I'm just crazy. All right, go off, King. Go off.
All right, let me say what I think about that.
Okay,
first,
you go
then.
for it.
So you get your juices running. So I think like if people are thinking 3 months out, oh, like they're gonna nerf this unit because the kit looks really OP, I'm not gonna pull for him. Okay, then eat shit. Like it's 3 months. Like the game's gonna change so much. You're gonna get so many resources in 3 months time that like it doesn't really matter. And like people are going to be pulling the unit if they can take advantage of it immediately, right? Whether it's from like an arena standpoint or any game mode standpoint, like if you can get value out of it immediately, it's worth your resources, you know? Like that idea of, oh, like this unit seems pretty OP, like in maybe next season they're not going to get nerfed, then I'm just not going to wail for it. Like I think that's like a really, really maybe like small percentage of people if they do think like that, but I think it's not a really, it won't be a really common thing that people would be taking into consideration, I think.
Yeah, I think there's 2 things you could say about this, right? One is that all Smilegate has to do to combat that is they just need to make a commitment that a character being released will not be nerfed for like 3 months, which is a whole season, right? So no matter what, a character coming out, you will always be able to take advantage of their release power level for a whole season. I think that's all you need to do. And then if you think about it, right, why do people swipe for units instead of wait for them to come through like a year, well, I guess now it's like a year and a half later in the coin shop, right? It's because, like, even if I'm sitting here with like 80 coins, like, why am I not waiting, right? Because I'll get them eventually. It's because, like, outside of being a content creator and I want to get those like early views, right? It's, well, I want to get this character early because this is a pretty important concept in economics. The earlier you get a resource and the earlier you use it, the more value you can get out of it over time. And as long as you know that for a whole season you get to abuse release Navy Captain Landy, then hey, fuck it, let's just run it, right? I think if they go with something like that and alongside a balancing philosophy of like, we're going to push out more balance patches, we're also going to push out more buffs, more nerfs, more like minor adjustments like other competitive games, like the game's in a pretty good spot, no cap.
Yeah, and you can also argue like something similar where if there's going to be the opportunity to nerf the character like 3 months down the line after the season, right? You can argue that they're going to be releasing other kits that function similarly or counter the meta as it shifts, and then there's more opportunities that entices players to swipe, right?
Yeah.
I was gonna say I'm not trying to steal Ace Trainer's thunder here, but I know exactly, you know, this is on his mentality as well, where it's just like there is a sort of don't shoot the messenger kind of mentality to the first unit or a couple of units that would technically get nerfed, right? But I think beyond that initial pain is also the idea that like when you pull for a unit, even if that unit gets nerfed, they'll be nerfed up to a point of balance that other units will then have to follow, which also actually I think raises the value of pulling for new units because you don't have to worry about them being dead or like unusable in a couple months, right? Like as much as she's fun, I don't get to play around with my Yandere Elena, right? As much as I might like the unit, I don't really get much play out of, you know, Twisted Eidolon Kairon, right? Because no matter how much they even want to approach buffing him, he's one of those really toxic units where if he gets overbuffed, he takes over the game. And other things can't be nerfed to a point where he's viable, so he just kind of sits in a place just outside of actually getting some real use. And I think that's part of the problem too, is that like we see it as this initial thing where once the nerfs happen, you know, units are going to suck and it's going to devalue a character. But actually, that's not really, I think, the case. The entire cast is more valuable once nerfs can be applied, because then they all have an equal chance of seeing some play. If things can only be buffed, then that far outweighs and outstrips the newest stuff to being powerful, meta, and valuable. And we've seen that for the last 3 years. It's been an entire case study in that mentality, actually, is what we've seen.
No, I 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I had to say something smart once in this video or people are going to get pissed at me.
Yeah. Okay, so, you know, we're talking about the meta, right? So I want to talk about the other thing that people have been really concerned about, which is, do we like third pick ban protection? And if we like it or we hate it, do we need it? And do we need to change it? And if so, you know, how should we change it? Because that's been another pretty big topic of discussion, especially amongst the Legend community. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with.
Okay, so the problem with third pick protection is you can just pick enabler on the third spot if you're a speedy aggressive player, or you pick your knight on the third spot if you're a standard player, or your DPS on the third spot alongside 4 supports that respond to their draft. It makes drafts feel very flowchart and actually gives first player a huge advantage. I think first pick was supposed to lose a bit of its power with this third ban protection, but I actually think it did the opposite. If you think about certain cheesers that maybe play ER Gala or ER Shu, right? If you're the first pick and then you set your 2-3 to like something like a Christie or DDR, right? Very high ER DDR, and then your third pick is that high ER Gala or Shu, right? You are already setting up your draft and your win condition in the first 3 slots, and you have 2 more picks to respond to whatever they're drafting, right? This sort of flowchart draft that's enabled by third pick ban protection just allows you to build less units, not think as much about what the opponent's drafting, and just gives that first pick a lot more advantage.
So what I would say is that I actually think third pick ban protection is good for the game for the casual players. Okay, so for casual players who maybe are limited on resources, limited on units because they're free to play, or if they are not super crazy about the game, or like super serious or climbing ladder, I think it's good. I think it's good for casual players for the average player base. It's good because they can benefit off of that, right? I only need to build 10 to 15 heroes versus having a wide variety of say 50 plus heroes, where for any given situation, like Ace Trainer, right, like he would have like a Teu ready, for example, or something, where people that's free to play wouldn't invest that kind of resource into them, right? So I think from a casual player standpoint, it's great, and I think it should stay for the casual player, maybe up to like master, challenger, champion, whatever. But I think when you get to the upper echelons of RTA, like going into Emperor, going into Legend, going into this in all the World Cup, everything, right, I think that should be removed at a higher level because it takes away the skill from the game. And Ace already covered it, right? Like it makes everything feel like flowcharty, really rigid. There's a lot more like one tricks, which like it's not to say that one trick should get punished, but it's like they already have the advantage of their name being hidden that was given to them. And yeah, I just feel like for casuals, great. For higher end though, I think it should definitely be like removed for sure.
Yep, I'm kind of with you guys on this one. I think the probably easiest way to do this is if you're a casual player, you're starting out, you got like 11 units built, and you really just want to hit masters to get your skin every season. And even if you don't want to play PvP, right, like I don't want to think this hard, I just want to lock in Navy Captain Landy on 3 and just, hit the let's fly emote, right? And I think that's perfectly fine. But after masters, and if you want to go higher, I think that's where like, because you guys put it really well. It lowers the skill floor, right? It's easy. RTA is easier to get in now than ever, but it also lowers the skill ceiling because, I coach a lot of people, and people are starting to like say to me in DMs like, okay, I'm starting to get like 100 games in, 200 games in, 300 games in. Okay, a lot of these games are starting to feel kind of samey, right? I'm picking the same 3 units out of 1, 2, 3, sometimes the same 4 units out of 1, 2, 3, 4, and only my 5th pick is really different. And, we're seeing that a lot with E7WC, too. And I think the easiest way to implement it, just keep it up until Masters rank, and after that, like, you don't have third pick ban protection anymore, and it's just go crazy, right? How do you feel about that, Divine?
Yeah, from the simplest perspective, third pick ban protection doesn't really... It enables you to, like, solidify a draft, but really more so at the end of the day, what it does is it disables interactivity, because it just says your opponent has to deal with this. They get no choice in it. They get no response, right? Their response is in, this is here now, I guess, and then the game sort of starts to revolve around those classic picks, right? And so, I think honestly, if I was going to be a smart person today, I would say there's probably ways to adjust it, but they take so long that you kind of just take it down. And that sort of seems to be the habit with a lot of the Smilegate stuff recently, where they like will introduce a big change. People get ready for it a couple months before World Cup. We all get sick of it. They take it out, replace it with a new thing, and we're back to start, right? And we've been through this cycle before, right? That's exactly where we were last year with stacking bans.
Well, the weird rolling pre-ban, post-ban thing?
Yeah, just most of the player base didn't have to handle that. Now most of the player base gets to stew in that shit, and they know exactly why a lot of tournament players are screaming about it when they were like, this is terrible, I hate it, right?
No.
Now, that would be the smart answer. The fun answer is that we all join hands around the campfire, and we jump into hell together. And that we just put a system in where before the match begins, it just randomizes what garbage you have to deal with. So it could be stacking pre-bans, it could be third pick ban protection. It could be like it could be that one season where I think like fucking mages got like extra. You remember that one season where
mage
everybody
7
got
speed. Oh god.
Mage 7 speed. It
Or
could
the
be that
sachet
one
thing,
season. Sachet, yeah, sachet.
Dude, the sachet thing was so cancer.
It just randomizes some bullshit. It's like, oh, you're playing with this garbage today, bro. It's just like every match. Then you're kind of like, There's so much garbage. It's kind of actually hilariously fun. But boy, does that roulette wheel kind of just get if you think people shouting, E7 fucking what do they shout? Were they E7 like competitive ready every time
esports
Landy?
ready?
Esports ready.
Esports ready, EOS 7, yay!
If you think people shouting esports ready is bad when Landy procs the salvo, oh, you're not ready for when they get the roulette wheel from hell.
Okay, no cap, that's actually a Flames idea for mock lobbies though, right? Like, I think it's fire for mock lobbies, and it's right now in preseason where even a guy like me, where I'm like, I love RTA, like, even through all the bull crap, like it's still pretty fun. I don't want to play RTA right now. Like, third pick ban protection, I know I'm going to get tired of once I spam 300 games of it. So I'm just literally going to start a new account, right? I've been doing that, and I've not been getting a lot of sleep, because playing a new account, unironically, is more fun than playing my endgame account, which is crazy to say in almost any context. So, like, preseason, go a little bit crazy with it, right? We saw them do that Sashay thing for a week, right? And then they were like, all right, sorry, guys, that was fucked up of us. We should never do that again. Like, actually, you should, because it's the preseason. But what you also should do is be a little bit cognizant of people in mock lobbies, so you don't just start fucking destroying tournaments out of nowhere, because I had to play a week of tournaments with the Sashay effect, and I got my cheeks clapped, okay? That was not fun.
No, I think what you're saying there makes complete sense, by the way, Valk. I do want to point that out of, like, okay, so let me put it like this, right? On your endgame account right now, right? What are your goals?
Have fun.
Okay, what are your goals for your new account?
Get to champion and teach people how to have fun ASAP.
No, but I mean, like, if you were to log in right now, what would you be doing?
Wyvern 13 and episode 2.
Episode 2, Wyvern 13, summoning over there, going through the Epic Dash Pass, going through the old rewards, actually re-gearing old units, rolling gear once again that you don't have 50,000 copies of. Like, you have 30 things you can do on the new account. You have, like, 2 ways to grow your existing account.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's the big difference there. And I'm not even saying that's a big problem. I think that's just the obvious thing. Honestly, that's why one of my favorite... I wish I could run a tournament like this if it wasn't for the fact that, like, asking people to do it would be way too much effort. But I'd love to have a tournament where it's just like everybody is on a week-old account.
Yeah, but starting a new account at E7 is, like, so much work. I actually don't recommend it unless you're really, really bored of your endgame account. Like, if you're really bored and you really can't bring yourself to click find opponent in the preseason, like, forget it, right? Do your daily summons, burn your daily energy, like, jump in the mud and start rolling around with me, right? But otherwise, like, I can't say I wholeheartedly recommend that, because E7 is one of those things. It's almost like building up, like, a habit. It's like raising up a child, right? Like, you're putting in so much work, love, and care to it that I don't know if I recommend that to people, right? Like, it's such a tough rec. All right, yeah, so somebody brought up a good point. You're way off topic now, so...
We're having fun, that's the topic.
We really are having fun, right? And at the end of the day, that's the thing, because RTA is not fun. So let's go on to a fun topic, guys. Right? We just got a balance patch detonated, right? It was like a 6 out of 10 patch, and suddenly now it's 2 out of 10, and the only thing good coming out of that patch is Lionheart Hermia finally getting fixed and being playable. So what buffs do you guys actually want to see in the game? What do you think we should have gotten in the balance patch? And, like, actually just throw out some balance patches that you guys would do. And, like, I'm taking notes on everything and then, like, forwarding it to Smilegate. So, like, no promises on whether or not anything will actually happen, but...
I think every balance patch that's like a giga banger had one character buff that was like really good for tank down players and one aggro option that like really shook things up. So now that we have Frida and such, I think we need a ML buff of like a DPS that its soul burn should like be doing a lot. So I can't think of any character in mind except maybe Ludwig. But like for the tank down, I was really liking AB's idea of having FCC buffed to actually deal with DDR in terms of having unstrippable barriers.
Whoa. I gave him that idea, bro. Relax.
Wait, you gave him that idea?
Yeah, we were talking about, so for context, chat, we were talking about buffs in the Veritas guild chat, and AB was there, and he says we really need characters that can just deal with DDR. I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, but bro, like I said that, man. I was like, what if Fallen Cecilia had a barrier, or had a passive, right? Her passive, everything staying the same, right? You can even change the skill nullifier, which I don't think is too strong in 2024. Make it so that if Fallen Cecilia puts a barrier on something or her teammates has a barrier, it cannot be dispelled in any way whatsoever, right? So we already saw something similar happen with Sage Vivian, right? And then now the drawback, right? So Sage Vivian's drawback is she needs to maintain 3 focus. So if you run her over, nuke her down, you can very easily just still burst her down, right? Or you play Sea Phantom Polly, you can play Solly. Now, for Fallen Cecilia, she can no longer beat like the protection set unit where versus 1 buff strips, right? So versus Lua, versus Fairy Tale Tenebria, which is like probably what she was the best at back in the day. It protects your immunity set. So make it so that Fallen Cecilia is good versus DDR because you have to like venom through the barrier to do damage. But if you're playing into Lua, if you're playing into Fairy Tale Tenebria, anything that strips 1 buff, that barrier will do jack crap. I think that will be like a pretty good, you give some, you take some, right? That's how I think a competitive game should work. Characters should have defined strengths, but also very clear weaknesses that multiple units can exploit, and that's what creates like an interesting pick, ban, and draft scenario, right?
Would it be also asking for too much if FCC got a variation of pen resist?
No, yep. Look, bro, I feel like, okay, if you think about how for the longest time, Fallen Cecilia is just, okay, I don't want to just get blown up because I'm not very fast. I'm just going to first pick Fallen Cecilia. Think about how long that was a thing for, right?
Yes.
Way too long. I'm perfectly okay if she had a bit more of like a niche role in the entirety of RTA. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But also, I will go back and change my answer for the first part, though, where I want Closer Charles buffed. I think right now it would kind of be the perfect time for him to return because there are a good amount of aggro enablers, but maybe lacking a bit in terms of bridging. And obviously, we have all these annoying anchors and Elbrus Knights. So somehow making Closer Charles Soulburn viable, checking this like tank down units that just do insane damage while anchoring, right? So that seems pretty fun to me in terms of a shakeup.
Buff Closer Charles. Aggro right now lacks like consistent bridging that just doesn't get counterattacked to death, right? Basically.
Yes.
Didn't somebody
what do you
get
think?
will be immune to counterattacks this buff as well?
I think they did that for Judge Kisei, right? Like the S2
Yeah,
so you just...
Yeah, because she doesn't do the anti-counterattack buff anymore. Or debuff. She just is not going to get hit by it, that's right.
That was so bad, because like last season I was watching Elv play, and every time he played Judge Kisei, it just, like, I either got 15%'d or it landed on a Ravi, and then the Ravi passive cleared the cannot counterattack debuff, and it counterattacked, and it killed the Judge Kisei. Simply put, the character looks like she just doesn't work. Right? We need something that works for her.
If I think similar to what Ace was saying, when I look at balance patches that are effective, when I look back on the history of Smilegate and what they've done to like set things right and really get the community excited for a series of buffs, I always see one consistent thing, right? Mm-hmm. And that's Melissa, right? You just gotta come on, let's go again, boys. Let's dig that hole one more time. 4th round of buffs for Melissa. Come on, my God, no.
Buffs out for Melissa, boys. Let's get it.
We'll get it right the 4th time, bro. We'll get it right the 4th time.
like who are the usual suspects at this point? It's Melissa. It's they finally got Green Celine, right?
Celine? Yeah, they finally got Green Celine with this last one.
Judge Kisei. So Green Celine's out. So it's Melissa, Judge Kisei, and who's the 3 musketeers of bad buffs now?
Can we consider Fire Tenebria?
Oh man, I don't know if they've ever tried to make her like a viable or usable unit though. You know what I mean?
We remember that time where I think they tried like twice or 3 times with roaming warrior Leo. I think
Oh, yeah.
they tried a couple times
I'm
with
gonna be
Leo.
honest, I wasn't even aware he was changed.
they at some point they tried to change him after PFlan because they were like, he's gonna be PFlan's #1. No, he wasn't. He wasn't doing shit, bro. Okay, all right. Now, okay, that's my joke answer. All right, time to get to my real thing.
Okay.
I would really like if we started setting a precedent of getting 4-star units right, so we don't have to wait for a 5th-star unit to come out or an ML to come out and finally achieve what the kit set out to do. And I think a perfect example of that is a unit everyone here, including chat, has forgotten about. No one has even said. I will alone stand this character. Can we please get a real version of Peacemaker Furious? Yeah, there we go. Bro, that guy is so booty, and his all he existed for was to initially have the barricade buff so that Ilnav could come out and break the game.
Yeah.
Bro, he just needs some small tweaks, and that's what I'm so sad about, is that like there's a lot of characters in this way that exist in a garbage state, and you know they're only garbage so that their ML version of themselves could pop off and be great, right? That's exactly what we're waiting for Brigitte, and I'm terrified when the ML character that rips off Brigitte's mechanics comes out and becomes incredible, right? Same thing with Archdemon. Even Archdemon Mercedes got hit with it, right? She was the ML, but we had to wait for fucking Knockwall to come out and make this shit dumb.
Let me just say that Peacemaker Furious is a good unit. All right, I used him in Guild War today. He's fucking solid. Fuck the haters, dude.
Yo, somebody shut this
doing
guy's
my go
AC down one more
Yuiku
time.
like that, bro? There's no way.
Dude, I one shot Aravi 100-0. What's up?
Who the fuck is Aravi?
Okay. Hey, she had 34k HP, man. You just gotta cook, dude.
Hez doesn't even play the game anymore. Are you proud of yourself? Like you just beat an old man.
So it had vigor or what?
Yeah, vigor, indomitable, defense buff.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
All right. So you
But
needed
no,
build 2 characters to support it. That's great.
Yes. Yeah, that's good. Dude, he has built-in RNL, man. Like the slander is fucking crazy. Like
Built-in RNL. Oh, violent set. I love me some violent procs, right? Holy.
Bro, I hope when you make the new player video and you go over sets again, you just leave out violent set. You just pretend revenge set. You just pretend it doesn't even exist.
Bro, who said I was gonna make anything on revenge set? I feel like if I made some shit on revenge set for new players and I'm trying to explain to new players what these are, I'm not only wasting their time, because I'm sure like people who are learning to play the game don't have infinite time, right? I'm wasting my time for writing that shit and reading that shit out loud, and I'm pretty sure I'm wasting my editor's time because he wishes he could be literally editing anything else and adding in more memes to clown on me. Like, come on.
I'm just glad that the only person I see in this entire community that uses revenge set regularly is also the angriest member. You know, God bless Evan.
In terms of heroes that should have got buffs, by the way, I just want to throw that in. Like, I want to see like MLK Ron get buffed. You know, like this dude definitely needs a buff. Like, it's been too long, and his kit just sucks. And like, he's handsome. He's a husbando. You can fucking sell him. Like, it's the way, man. We got to go there.
I think another point to be made about MLK Ron too is like, he's a damage character, you know? He doesn't do debuffs. So if you buff him, we move away from the debuff meta. But like, also, because he does fixed damage, right? Like, how much is too much? Because if you drop an S3 on somebody right now, you're doing like what? You're doing like 14, 16k like damage to the entire team, roughly, right? And like, that's kind of not enough right now if you just let him tank it all the way out and then drop it. It's kind of not a win condition. It's a lot, but it's not a win condition, which is why he's not played. So how much does he have to do for him to be a win condition? And if not, like, do you need to be able to like change around the fixed damage? And if you change around the fixed damage, are people going to be too upset about it, right?
Just give him built-in injury, dude. Done.
Oh shit! Actually, that's a really good idea. Let
Yeah,
the
built-in
let the
injury on counter. You know, like you can leave his kit, like maybe even give him undispellable counter. That might be too OP, but just
wait.
give
Give
him
him
built-in
Mind's
injury.
Eye. They just changed Mind's Eye for Alencia, right? Give him Mind's Eye as he's countering. Oh my god, you're a
thanks.
genius, Vic.
Thank you,
Wait,
thank you.
You
thank
let him
you.
injure a bunch of idiots, and then he just slams his hand on the S3, and then he just one-shots a whole bunch of injury. Wait, that's actually kind of genius,
You
right?
hear this chat? You don't need to be legend to have good ideas. By the way, yep, good take.
Yeah. There you go. Like that's a pretty good idea. No cap.
Shadow Mars.
Okay. Well, you know, we all say it all the fucking time too, but I'll say it once again just to reiterate it. It really does suck how long these balance patches take to come out, especially in coordination with the idea that like it feels like some of the units on the balance patch are like, yeah, this unit isn't good, but it also feels like a good deal of them are, well, this unit hasn't had a banner in a while, so we got to put them up for banner, and we can't put up a unit that's shit up for banner unless it's ML haste for some reason. So let's go ahead and buff this character so they actually get play in the banner, which also means that like balance is sort of determined by like who hasn't shown up to be pulled in a while, and I think that's kind of silly.
Okay.
Is what it is. I mean, it's only silly with like a patch cycle that takes this long. If the patch cycle was quicker, or they're doing changes a little bit quicker, it would be fine. But it's the combination of the two that makes it a problem.
Okay, so like those are some pretty good points, right? And I kind of want to use that to pivot into the next
Kenley
topic.
said something about artifacts. That artifact stuff is also really true.
I don't know a better way to phrase this question. Oh god, it doesn't even fit on my screen. But like, how does the balance team like what metrics and what methodologies should the balance patch team use to like make these changes? You know, like everything just based off of statistics? Should they, like do surveys in the community? Because I'm pretty sure we can all agree, like after this last round of debacle, like I do not want to see Smaugay just go, oh shit, Stove and Reddit's angry, let's listen to them. Like out of all times you listen, it's this one. We're gonna have a civil discussion today, so I'm not gonna say what I think.
I will start, I guess. I'll just say that they already, hey, you already know E7GG. You know what I'm saying? E7GG, the GOAT tool of Epic 7, all right? Like, I think they already have all the statistics that they need, regardless of rank, right? Like, I think a lot of the people that would say, like, oh, like, if say, for example, you make, like a Discord with, like, the highest ranked players that give their intake, it's only going to be a catering to, like, the upper echelon or the whales or whatever, right? So to kind of combat that kind of argument, like, let's just use the E7GG and track the stats, right? Surveys can also be used into the mix. And then I also think community, or I guess that also ties like community feedback, but also just like feedback from maybe not just like the content creators, but also from, I don't know how to make the selection, but just people that are playing RTA constantly and they're in the know that can give valid takes that actually make sense. I think just make a combination of all three and then just kind of slam them all together. I think that's a good mix.
What was the second one? You said it's E7GG, have like a server with high rank players.
Community like surveys.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because like you're not really going to be able to capture a casual player, but on the same hand, like casual players probably aren't really going to be caring what's affecting the higher levels of RTA. You know, so you gotta try to cater to all parties.
Yeah, building on what Vic's saying, we also have that in-game tool of hero ratings, and I think like you using the data that's obviously being tracked in terms of ELO and MMR, you can weigh people's opinions into how much it impacts like the balancing decision. But yeah, using the in-game tool could also be a data point that allows balancing.
Okay. Yeah.
Also, we're never going to get to.
Go for it.
Sorry, we're never going to get to an equilibrium where even the 3 stars are going to have like similar draft pick rate compared to other units, right? So we should be prioritizing in terms of like some fan favorites, but RGB 5 stars, right? And then ML 5 stars, all ML 5 stars first, and then RGB 5 stars, and then ML 4 stars, and then RGB 4 stars. You know, that's sort of the ideal to where making most of them pretty viable and playable.
Yep. And the thing I want to bring up is like, Craze in chat is making a really good point, right? If you look at different games that are balanced around different skill brackets, League of Legends is is balanced around competitive play at the highest level, whereas also a Riot game, Teamfight Tactics, is balanced around, the top 5 to 10% of player base, right? So you can kind of like mess around with that, and like different companies will have different game balancing philosophies, but I think no matter what, we can agree that like whatever we do, E7 should not be balanced around the bottom 10% of the player base. Like that should not have to be a statement that, everybody needs to come out and say, but like after this week, I feel like that needs to be said loud and clear. Just don't balance around the bottom 10%. Like how hard is that? Come on now.
Well, my only problem with that is I don't know if even through this incident that's the case, because even you said you were like, yeah, these changes look really really strong, and it's not like Smilegate came out and said, it was this guy on Reddit that convinced us. And I think that's really what comes down to it, from the dev perspective. A lot of balance is not only like the actual changes you make, but how you deliver them and how you the rhetoric that goes alongside them, right? That's why things like, Mort Dog from TFT talking about the reasonings behind why they do their things. That's why Jeff Kaplan from Overwatch, like having like an actual discussion from the dev team, like coherently making their arguments and talking about things makes a lot of sense and makes it clear. Like even with the buff notes we get, right? Even when we do get a buff note, right? We don't get like an explanation behind like why something is happening. We just get an explanation on what is happening and their hopes for the effect it will have. But it's never like, yeah, nobody picks Rimuru anymore. So we're just doing this, and we really hope it's not toxic, because if it is toxic, oh, we're fucked. And that's, once again, it goes back to the no nerfs argument, right? Is that like, it's hard to explain your methodology when you have to be 100% right every time, because you can't nerf shit. It's I'm sorry to say it, but he's the smartest person in this community. It all goes back to what Sue said last year. You make a future league, you put proposed changes in there, you let people test them out, and then you let those changes go live. Hell, you do them in preseason, like every motherfucker in chat has been screaming for the last year as well. You do the big changes in preseason, and you simply say, this is an experimentation ground, nothing here is promised. And the biggest problem of all, right? Not the biggest problem, but one of the big problems is this, right? Valk, what is the highest echelon of play in Epic 7? The highest, the pinnacle.
Like probably high rank RTA?
No, above that.
Oh, E7WC.
Tournaments.
It's E7WC, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what does the data set for E7WC look like? It looks like 3 tournaments that get run by Smilegate every year. That is not enough for them to make definitive, conclusive evidence about a lot of the problems in the game, especially for a good watchable play experience like they aim for, right?
Right.
They happen too often, right? What was the tournament? But what was the big tournament-esque tournament before E7 World Cup?
You're talking about like just in the community sense, or specifically from the official?
Specifically Smilegate. Specifically from Smilegate.
Preliminary?
CCB?
Official.
Like
I guess.
It's either
that's the problem.
preliminaries if you want to count that as a separate event, or it's CCB, right? Which is Content Creator Battle.
Yeah, that's the only time they get the data on these changes that happen in these longer sets of matches, right? And it's the only time they see players of that level really go at it outside of RTA. Honestly, most of the data that they want to be looking for, especially in those contexts, come from our tournaments.
Yeah.
Funnily enough. So it's just like, yeah, there needs to be a greater data set or more opportunities for high rank play so they can pull better data from them that's outside of one-off matches between people on the ladder in RTA.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. Man, you really came and said today I was going to be divine and ML divine. I'm going to be an idiot, and I'm also going to say the smartest thing people can say in this call. I think that's really good, and I think at the end of the day, like, Smilegate definitely knows. It's just a matter of whether or not the team can have the room to implement that, right? Which is kind of how I want to move this into the last fixed topic that we're going to go into today, which is this. you know, it's the 6th anniversary. A bunch of us are starting new accounts, and as I'm progressing, as I'm planning ahead, a couple of problems are starting to become pretty obvious to me, right? Especially when we're not nerfing characters in this game. As a free-to-play player, do you have enough options to counter top-tier units? If you want to play PvP, if you want to do, like, Rift, right? Not just even, like, top-tier units in PvP, but top-tier content in general. Like, I feel like that's kind of a concern, no? Because if you think about, let's say, beating Death Dealer Ray, right? And you're not hitting, you know, not even like ML Sharoon, because ML Sharoon's not even the best unit in this case. ML Sharoon is like kind of a net neutral, but a little bit more versus Death Dealer Ray. She's not even a hard counter to Death Dealer Ray. As like a turn 2 legend player, would you say that, Ace?
Yeah, I think ML Sharoon actually loses out in terms of value against DDR just because of how much DDR can injure, whereas Sharoon is simply awakening your team, not cleansing any debuffs beyond that, and needing to AoE, which is heavily punishable.
Yeah, so like that's one of them, right? And then outside of like ML Sharoon, who's is an ML5 by the way, and she has almost, you know, next to no other uses besides you pick her into Death Dealer Ray, and that specifically by itself was a selling point, right? There's that, like Bunny Dominion, like you could pick her, but honestly, like the Ray just never has to press S3 and your team is gonna get injured to death anyway, right? Yeah. What is a free-to-play player who doesn't have like ML4s, ML5s, like what options do they have to beat Death Dealer Ray?
I mean, they can get SSV for free, right? I think from one of the selections.
Okay, but here's a real hard-hitting question, right? Yeah. Also, Vic, is your stream okay, bro? Like, you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, just wanted to make sure. Okay, so here's a real question. As a new player, right, Ace? Would you rather pick up Sylvan Sage Vivian from Fallen Lands, or would you rather pick up Death Dealer Ray from Fallen Lands? Right? Like, why would I go for a Death Dealer Ray counter from Fallen Lands selector when I could just get Death Dealer Ray and be the problem, bro?
Become the problem. Become the enemy.
Okay. So then going back to your question, the top tier units right now, like BM Haste, DDR, Conquer, Landy. Yeah, I guess as the free-to-play player, you can get like, what, 3 or 4 ML5s? So
I think my new account is looking at 3 guaranteed ML5s, right? I have the Moonlight Connections for RB, I got Death Dealer Ray from Fallen Lands, and I got the mysterious guaranteed ML5 at the end of the Epic Dash event, right? And so far, like, on the new account, my luck is definitely not there, so...
What about the web event with the ML selector thing, like roulette thing? Is that happening still? Yeah.
Are you talking about...
I thought that was permanent. Yeah.
Are you talking about the headhunt or what?
Yeah, the headhunt, yeah.
We ain't got the headhunt this year. Instead of a headhunt, they're just giving us like 100 Moonlight summons and a guaranteed ML5. Like, it's a mystery ML5 this year.
Yeah. So the question becomes, can 3 ML5s cover your bases for Guild War and some casual RTA play? And I'm going to lean towards no.
And especially like for RTA where you can only have 1 unit. It's not like you can have 2 Death Dealer Rays and if I put you to sleep first, you can't do jack, right? It's, well, that guy got first pick. He got Death Dealer Ray. I guess I'll die.
Yeah, something like that.
Right? Like that's kind of where the problem is at the end of the day. Like what do free to play players do if they're trying to beat these top tier units? And I'm not just saying like, you know, you got these Giga Turbo Space Whales that dropped 150 grand on their account in the top 1000s and you're trying to squeeze in as a, you know, poor little free to play. Like, just going up to champion rank, which everybody I think should be able to do. Like, what options do I have to fight Death Dealer Ray? What options do I have to fight Laya? And without Laya, how do I fight Noctwol, right? And how do I fight Alua? Like, I think those are all questions where it's like, you know, we need actual viable units that can solve our problems from in the RGB4, RGB5 or ML4 slot that a lot of times it just doesn't pan out.
You know,
right?
You know what the greatest quality of life feature in this game actually currently is? I discovered this the other day. It's the fact that Janua counts as a season 1 unit, so a new player can actually get him without having to get all the way to episode 5 or whatever when he actually came out.
Yeah, that's the game plan for me, right? Like I'm
Yeah,
looking at this from the perspective of like an end game player trying to push for champion rank like as soon as possible. Okay, I'm gonna pick up Janua from episode 1. His story summon comes up in 2 weeks from the day we're recording this. We got Death Dealer Ray from Fallen Lands. Like I got damage, I got debuffs, I got hopefully enough tools to be a problem, but also hopefully enough ways to get around units like Knockwool, to get around Laya, right? Because those units are going to kick my ass no matter what.
Yeah, someone's opinion who I'm curious to hear from is Victron, because I know he's got like multiple accounts for Guild War, right? And some of them being relatively new. So I'm curious if, you know, we accept the fact that no free-to-play is going to be RTA ready within a year or something like that, then even for Guild War, like how do you like build up and prioritize gearing certain things and choosing certain 5 stars to where you can be viable?
Okay.
Well, the thing about Guild War, it's in a controlled environment, so you're able to pick and choose what you build based on the meta, right? So even though one unit might be really prominent, like say DDR, Janua, or whatever that is, you know, we're gonna talk about what it's at hand, like you can always just work around it. So as a free to play, like I feel like you can either choose to you just kind of choose to just kind of work around it, right? Like you don't have to force a way to deal with it because you're not slamming RTA where that unit is basically pick banned every single game, right? So yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I think we can all agree on this then. You know, do free-to-play players have enough options to counter top-tier units? Short answer, absolutely not, right? Needs to be enough RGB5, ML4 answers to answer a lot of these top-tier units, and it's just been an ML5 arms race for quite a while now, ever since, like, Navy Captain Landy, Abyssal Euphine dropped. Almost everything's just, like, centralized on the ML5. So the only RGB5 characters to make a difference are, like, the Genua and the Lias of the game, right? And then they become the problem. And then
Bro,
what can you do to deal with them, right?
Bro, we're in a place where you can actually pick up Angel of Light Angelica and no one cares. Like that used to be the legit like hard to actually get like snipe pickup, right? It had such good value for so long too, and we're currently in such a not even ML5 arms race, honestly.
Bro, Genesis' account was like $300 in the game, and then like the day Angel of Light came out, he spent like $2,000 based off of like chat's donations, getting 6 specimen sets just to get Angel of Light, bro. Like, I hope the community still remembers how toxic that shit was. That was almost, I would say that stream was singularly the reason the Moonlight 4-star pity got added to the game. Dude, I still remember that. I was like, holy crap, that is crazy. Like, how crazy the ML4 is, and how badly, like, as content creators and RTA players, we need that character.
Yeah. I mean, that's it to me, right? Like, that is the signifier, is that we are in a place where simultaneously Angel of Light Angelica is a who cares unit, and when we talk about first pick, no one is talking about Conqueror Lilies.
Yep. All right, so I think that kind of covers all the topics I really wanted to go over, and really said I would take notes for Smilegate when it comes to you know, the recent balancing debacle. So that being said, I got a lot of people knocking in the chat going like, let me in. So
Let's go.
yeah, if you guys want to get on here and yap about a certain topic related to anything that we're talking about today, this will be your get into any of the voice channels. I'll drag you in. If you want to talk about something you want to see added to the game, if you want to agree or disagree with anything we've said, you have anything you want to express to Smilegate that I type down into the notes personally for you, and Smilegate will see it, because that's what the CMs promised me. This is your opportunity. You can get into the Discord right here. All right, let's see if people pull up, because this is a town hall, right? What does Car call it? Car calls it like a viewer call it, right? I'm calling it a town. Oh, there's my guy. There's my guy Lunale. I know Lunale has a lot to say about third pick ban protection.
I know, it's his favorite system.
I think reban protection is the worst thing that has ever happened to RTA. I mean, I've said that many times, but it kills diversity, it kills being flexible, and I think it really emphasizes on gear gap because obviously you just pick your fastest unit on 3, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, but actually, I want to talk about the thing about the free-to-play counters thing. I think that's really unrealistic, though. No, like having enough free-to-play counters to like everything. Isn't that kind of unrealistic?
I mean, I'm not saying, like, you know, free-to-play players should pick up an ML4 and instantly beat, like, DDR, right? But I do think, like, so from, like, a balancing perspective, right? Like, Dragon King Sharoon should be way stronger, and an ML4 or even, like, a RGB5 should be at the same power level as Dragon King Sharoon, no?
Wait, so you're saying an RGB5 should be at the same level as Sharoon?
Yes, because she's not really a DDR counter. Like, I'm sure you can agree with that, right? Like, you pick Sharoon into DDR, like, you're like kind of going even, maybe a tinge ahead, right? Like it's kind of problematic where you're summoning for an ML5 and for a specific job, and you're not even getting ahead with it, right? I don't know if you agree with that, you disagree with that. Feel free to disagree, right?
I think Sharoon is actually quite good into DDR, assuming you play aggro. Obviously, you can't just pick 3 slow units with Sharoon and, like, you know, call it a day.
Right,
yeah,
right.
I mean,
So it only works for
fair.
like half the player base, right? Basically,
Yeah,
that's kind of
fair.
my issue, right? You can kind of see how if you make a new unit that is about the same power level as, like, you know, ML Sharoon, put it as like an RGB5 or an ML4, I think that's like passable, you know? And make ML Sharoon something where it's like really strong into Death Dealer race specifically, but also decent as, like, you know, their own unit.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But like the expectation that Lunale was saying, I kind of agree with, where you can't have, like, you know, 4 stars that can allow someone to be RTA ready so quick when they just get into the game, or else, you know, there's not too much incentive to summoning for a lot of these ML5s. That's a lot of E7's progression is building up your account with these rare characters, right?
No, I understand where you're coming from, Ace Trainer, especially as one of the most handsome people here. But I really do think if you take a second to consider, I mean, not as handsome as Lunale, but like, let's hold back. But like, you know, if you take a second to consider the opposite of that, right? The opposite of that situation, which is somebody is trying to play RTA, there is not a lot of fun to be had in experience where somebody slams a character and you have your friend on the side who's like, hey buddy, could you help me out? What should I do here? And their answer is top right. Like, give up. Like, fuck you, you're done here.
But
right?
is it even? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, there shouldn't be, you know, immediate, easy counter, great answers, but you should have an ability to, at least on some level, have a thing where you could be like, if I build this character in this specific way, if I invest in them, if I get them some good gear, I have an answer. Not a perfect answer, not the be-all, end-all counter, but I'm still in the game. I'm still interacting, and I'm still playing with this person, as opposed to laying over like a turtle in the middle of the road waiting to be crushed.
I mean, like, to Lunel's point, like, about being unrealistic. I mean, like, I don't think new players can, you know, expect to hop into a game that's 6 years old and be able to, you know, fight, you know, play like a really high level against these really powerful characters.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
I think, like,
That's what I wanted to say. That's what I wanted.
for any game that you join, like, if I want to pick up any other gacha right now, I'm sure I would have to put in a year or like 6 months, 8 months, if you're like not spending versus spending, to get to a certain point where you're able to fight against, you know, those kind of really strong characters. And I don't know, I just think if we're talking about like new players, like, I don't think it's necessarily like reasonable to like have units that are ready that can fully counter those stronger units, because they're just limited on resources, they're restricted on like total time played, and just a bunch of other factors.
Because we're trying to like basically balance both sides, right? For one, we, like the 5 of us here, kind of want to see a more competitive esports-ish game, but at the same time, we're thinking about balancing in terms of catering to free-to-plays. So it's kind of difficult, right?
I mean, you can't really balance the game to free to plays, because no matter what you do, like, whales are always going to dominate a gacha, right? Like, that's just a reality. So
Yeah, I mean, like, there's a certain like power curve that you're kind of following, right? Where it's like whales are going to always be able to dominate a gacha game, but RTA should, at the end of the day, still be about skill. So whether you're on a 10k account or a 100k account, like, the skill should matter you know, maybe a little bit more than just because the 100K guy just slammed enough money to hit like 329 speeders, right? I think we can all agree with that for like a healthy and fun game.
I actually disagree with that because I do think RTA takes a ton of skill. I think there's so much skill expression in RTA. I mean, just like a World Cup for an example, Oskisu's account is so much worse than like most people there, but he had a really good showing, no?
Yep. No, I agree. I really like stuff like that.
Yeah, at the end of the day, Hezmana won. We all know his account's insane, but I do think like, I feel like a lot of people. I mean, I feel like as long as you play the game for a while, you do have the chance to catch up. I think Smilegate's giving a lot of catch-up mechanics, especially with the newest event and stuff, right? I do wish they ran that that perfect year event a bit more. I feel like that really helps people catch up. But that's like my only complaint. I think. I think Smilegate's actually doing a good job helping free-to-plays and whatnot.
Well, the otherworldly gemstone thing feels pretty good actually, especially from what I've been hearing. People are actually getting some pretty decent gear. The new Rift thing, where you get the otherworldly stone or whatever.
Oh, it's so RNG. It's so RNG. I've got
It's just Taylor's
absolutely
substat.
nothing.
Okay, people I've heard have been getting bangers after bangers, so.
Oh my god.
I was on the green side of the fence, yeah.
Dude,
It's
I burned like
pretty
300 energy into the goblin thing, thinking it was.
Goblin?
No,
No.
I wasn't paying attention. I thought it was some new shit, dude.
You might be a bum.
Nah, bro.
Bro, my man's got the perfect golem team. You've never seen it before.
We down a day of stamina for fun, I guess. Oh,
Bro,
man.
how long has it been since Milim was usable?
2 seasons?
4 seasons.
You guys remember World Cup prenums? I actually kept telling everyone that Milim's really good.
Versus Celine BM Hayes, right?
Yeah, versus Celine. Yeah.
Yeah,
But,
I remember that period because like there's a
she was
period
not
where
good.
you could play like a speed DPS Milim and then assassinate a thing and then just like kind of hope you stay alive a little bit, right?
Yeah, she was not good. Got exposed.
Oh man, we
Well,
don't want to see this.
I was thinking about characters I haven't seen for a while. I'm like, damn, I used to love my Milim. She's so stupid. And then she went, Wahaha!
Yeah, I do think the latest release of units are going a bit overboard. I mean, obviously, I think most people agree on that. Like, I feel like every unit nowadays, like all the ML5s especially, every time there's a new kit, they're way too overloaded.
I have a bunch of friends who like quit after like Navy Captain Landing because like this game is getting too bullshit, and they wanted to come back in for the anniversary, and just the units they missed in the meantime, I'm just sitting there like telling them like, nah, bro, you're fucked. Like you're just absolutely fucked.
Yeah, there was a distinct breakpoint when Navy Captain Lanny came out. So before that, right, Spectre Tenebria, best unit in the game, had 8 lines of skills to her entire kit, right? Her S1, her passive, the S3. When Navy Captain Lanny came out, that became the new standard. Every character, if you guys go read it, had about 10 to 11 lines of like they do different things and different effects whenever something happened. Bro, 11 lines, man. Like, so all units nowadays are just 20 to 30% stronger. If you just bar out the effectiveness, like, bro, Spectre Tenebria poisons on her S1. Navy Captain Landy has like a 40% chance to just skull fuck your entire team. Like, hello? Like,
Bro,
that's weighing them the same, right?
We got to start calling this the paragraph meta. That's really how we got to put this shit down.
Wait, Lunale, what else do you like? What other opinions do you have? Like, I'm taking notes on everything, by the way. I'm gonna forward it to Smilegate.
Okay, I think the biggest thing of annoyance for me is the limited artifacts.
Yes. Oh shit.
I think it's really, really stupid that if you think about all like the best turn 2 artifacts specifically are limited artifacts. No, like Guardian Ice Crystal, for example. 3F, for example. Like we don't even know if these are ever gonna come back. I think
Arenas.
Yeah, Karina's like all the turn 2 artifacts are just way too locked behind limited artifacts. I think that's so dumb. Like how can like let's say you took a break in that period. I know some people that took a break during that period and like you just missed out on 3F. Like your account is just so much worse off. And it feels really bad to play.
I was talking about this with Tristan. Our answer was put a non-limited, collab version of some of these artifacts in the guild shop because legitimately there is no chance we're getting an Espery run.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
They don't even use those character models or that aspect of their thing anymore. So it's not happening.
Yeah, the ESPA is never getting a rerun, and they got like the ESPA got signed to a new label too, like so it's just absolutely never fucking happening, right? So the question is, right, if Epic 7 is going to be like a Summoner War clone, should it use Summoner War system of, you know, it releases Guardian Ice Crystal or Sweet Miracle or Rocket Punch Gauntlet and 3F, right? After the event ends, should they just release an evergreen version of that artifact to just be in the Covenant pool for everybody to be able to like randomly hit?
No, absolutely, because the only other solution, because Smilegate's #1 thing is they want new players, and more than that, they want new players in playing this game competitively on the world stage. Do you know how much hype there was around Nezuko being a free-to-play friendly player, or like something that new players could look up to and be like, yeah, I might not have as much as other people, but I can win. That's the exciting thing about the game. And one of the big problems currently is telling players like that, like, your account will never be as good as these people, and you won't even get the chance to ever be that good. That is such a big down, like, depressing problem to even face when getting into a game. Like, I'll be honest with you, if I was starting an Epic 7 account today, I wouldn't. Like, I'm okay with what I missed back in the day. I'll never have fucking, God, whatever that VTuber's name is.
Kizuna Ai.
Kizuna Ai. I'll never have Kizuna AI, but I'm good because I got fucking 4 copies of Guardian Ice Crystal, right?
Yep.
So like I'm decent, but like if it wasn't for that, like holy shit, I would not want to play this game.
Yeah, that's fair. Luna, anything else? Like I know you got a lot of opinions. Like this is your time, my brother.
Is there any topics? I can't really think of many things on top of my head.
So here's a new one. I'm probably going to ask this. Okay, yeah. How do you feel about the debuff meta? Do you like it? Do you think it's healthy?
Okay, I do think Nockwell is the most annoying unit in the game to play. Like, no one likes playing with her. No one likes playing against her. Like, I feel like outside of Nockwell, it's perfectly fine. No, I feel like it's only Nockwell that's really a problem.
Do you feel even remotely similarly about Death Dealer Ray or no?
No, I don't. I actually think Death Dealer Ray has a lot of counterplay, and it doesn't feel bad to play. Like, it doesn't feel bad to play DDR for me, but like playing Nockwell, you miss one S2, you insta lose the game. Like, it just feels really bad. I don't think DDR is nearly as bad. I think DDR has a lot more counters than people would actually think. Like, for example, Sharon, I think Bunny Down is good if you play aggressive. I guess the biggest thing is a counter, a more concrete counter for like slower players. I guess aggro players could deal with DDR easily, but
yeah, like if you're fat, like I think that's just the turn-based game advantage, right? If you have the speed advantage, you kind of have your options. But if you don't, then eat shit, right? And that's kind of something that, you know, as a competitive community, we don't really want to stand behind. I feel like we can at least say that.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, like turn 2 maybe has like SSV, Celine, Iffy, you know.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Okay, so if you don't have any other points, I'm going to ask this question to every single person who comes on. So if you have any opinions on this, right? I'm going to ask you this, whether you have an answer for it or not. What do you think is a new content they can add to the game? So to give you a perspective, new content is like, not like they add a new unit or they add like a new artifact.
I think new units is not content.
yeah, it's got to be like a new game mode of some sort, right? And if you really want to scrutinize and be like, that's a new content, be technical, the last new content we got in the game, I believe, is Rift, right? I'm talking about like adding in like draft mode, adding in like, you know, I wouldn't even call it the new Hall of Trials like a new content. They just revamped some old shit, right? Like, you got to really, like, add in a different thing for the players to chase in the end game, right? People want to be able to stick around for, right? Like a Guild War revamp. We're adding in, I think they call it, like, Note Sieges in Summoner War. I was told that's actually mad fun in Summoner War, and surprised E7 never copied that, right?
Oh, I mean, I think by far the biggest thing you already said is a revamp for Guild War. No, I feel like Guild War is actually really fun. Like, okay, I know, like, a lot of people think Guild War is omega boring, but I would say one of the most fun times I had in E7 was when when Fleet pushed for like top 3 a few seasons ago. I think like the sense of like community like you get from being in a guild is like really fun. But yeah, obviously Guild War it's not doing too hot.
Someone say Guild War.
Yeah, isn't Guild War actually fun if like you're going for top 3 and stuff? I don't know. Maybe it's because we kind of sucked. I don't know how it is in Talentless, but like we weren't like good. Like we weren't like a good Guild War team, but like the time we could go for top 3 was hella fun because like everyone had like the same goal, like whereas RTA is mostly like a solo thing. So I think to answer your question, I don't think they didn't necessarily make new content. I think they just have to like revamp their old content or like push out stuff faster. For example, I actually read the new continent for Adventure. I wish it was faster. It's so slow. Like they make like a new chapter like once every 3 months. That's way too slow. And I think revamping Guild War is a good start. Like Abyss has been like gone for like years. I feel like instead I mean honestly I don't really have any new ideas, but I just think improving your current product might be a better approach.
I mean, if they were to revamp Guild War, because you brought this up, right? Like, the community building aspect is huge. Vic is here. Vic is a big Guild War head. What do you guys think they can do for Guild Wars to actually make it a competitive product that you would play alongside RTA?
Okay, so go ahead. Go ahead.
No, you go. You're the Guild War expert. You're the Guild War expert. No, you got it.
Okay, so what I think needs to happen for Guild War is, you want to first of all, because there's like E7 World Cup, I think if you make a like cross-server Guild War kind of mode at the end of the season or like whatever to kind of determine like which server is the best, that's one thing I would definitely suggest. And then have it like bracket mode and then figure out the logistics of, showing the matches and stuff like that. And it could be like throughout a week or whatever. I think that's great content for them to sell. I think in terms of the actual Guild War at the highest level, I think Hall of Fame, it really doesn't mean anything to anyone. Like, let's introduce like individualized frames for the 30 members that were in that guild. Of course, you're going to have concerns about, what if, people sell the 29 slots, right, at the end of the season, right? Well, let's say they have to like play an X amount of Guild Wars or whatever. Like, I'm sure they could add something in to kind of, figure that out. Nor do I think those 29 people would sell their spot. Anyway, that's the second point, is give an individualized frame for players that push for Hall of Fame. I mean, even going into like top 30, top 100, give all those people like individualized frames, so it incentivizes people to actually care about the game mode and whatnot. I think adding in exclusive equipment in the guild shop, so not using armbands, because a lot of veteran players have a shit ton of those. I think introducing like a third currency and introduce a 6x bracket so that people that do play competitively for Guild War can get to those exclusive equipments faster. Whether that introducing the 6x bracket is a good idea, that's up for debate. But I think just having an exclusive equipment with a third currency would incentivize people to have better performance. Because if, let's say, I go 0-3, I'll get 50 currency. But if I go 3-0, I'll get 200 currency, which means I will just be able to get to that exclusive equipment a little bit faster, which will incentivize people to go, like maybe I should care a little bit. I should, invest a little bit more in the heroes and like time to, gear my heroes and stuff like that. It also turns into a gold sink. So from Epic 7 standpoint, I don't know. There's a really long list, but I think I'll just keep it kind of short. Those are some of the key ideas that I would kind of add in if I was a dev.
Yeah,
what I want to ask you. Oh, you could go. My bad.
I was gonna say just a small addition to what Vic was talking about, but I'd like the ability, especially as a nice quality of life for newer guilds or guilds with newer players, let people borrow a unit from whoever owns the stronghold of the area they're in. Just let them borrow one unit to make it easier in case like newer players especially are afraid. They're like, I can't really gear 6 units just for the sake of, or like inside this RTA mode, or like, oh, I'm missing this one thing. Let people like borrow one from the stronghold or that's currently in their guild stronghold, and then just use that unit.
That I feel like that could be cool, but I could also see it backfiring quite a bit.
I mean, Vic, what I want to ask you is all your suggestions seem to be like increased rewards, but what about the actual gameplay of Guild War? Like I feel like increasing rewards will only do so much. I feel like they have to actually change like how Guild War is. For example, in another gacha I played, one of the things they did is you can't use the same unit twice. I feel like something like that might help. I don't know.
Yep. No,
Yeah,
I agree.
mean, I think introducing like a universal ban could be pretty cool. Something that they can dabble with. I think like making specific small towers you have to target first to get to the big tower to get to the stronghold. I think could be cool too because
Oh yes, I like that one.
it doesn't just limit to like three towers that
Wait,
hold everything together.
It used to be like that, right? Like we got to hit the small towers before you can hit the forts.
Yeah, and then you know, a few certain guilds really fucked it up for
okay,
everybody, right?
Oh wait, I remember what happened.
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
Okay.
You remember what happened,
Wait,
right?
let's make it clear though. I wasn't in the guild at the time, so
Yeah. No, I'm not coming at you directly. I'm trying to make sure.
It's the reason he joined, though. You can't forget that.
Yeah, I mean, there was a there's a word fleet used to rhyme with that gets thrown around a lot. You know what I mean?
I kind of forgot about that. I wasn't like playing the game when that happened, so
yeah. I mean, I think like if you just went onto the old system where it's like you have to attack the small towers to attack the forts, and you have to clear all 3 forts just to get out the stronghold, it add a lot more meaning, right? That's the first thing, and then
it's kind of boring. That like I feel like everyone just as soon as you wake up, you just go hit the big forts and call it a day. Like,
yeah,
or
if you're one of the degen gang and you like stay up through the night till reset, you just hit all 3 forts and then you just log off and go the fuck to sleep, right? Like nowadays. You could do different things like rotating every week. There's like different rules, right? It'll also add in a lot more.
Cool,
like, can you imagine how much fucking content Vic would get if it's like this week is like all water units are like they get 50 additional effect resistance for something, and then like that's only for defense team, but for offense team you get like a different buff, right? Like Vic would get so much really content
cool.
weekly.
I think that would be cool. Yeah.
Right, or on a 2-week cycle, Vic would be pumping out like Guild War content the same way Tristan pumps stuff out for like Holo Trials.
Are you saying we need another wheel to spin? We need another randomizer every week going in? You know, I was going to say counter side lets people vote for how they're going to fuck up the game for their next week's RTA season. Maybe we need that. Where everybody just agrees for this next week, everyone has fucking DDR pre-ban. Nobody wants to see this motherfucker.
Yeah, there you go. Right?
Actually, there's something I wanted to ask you guys. So speaking of rewards, like we talk about Guild War rewards. How do you guys feel about RTA shop?
Yo, bro, throw in a fucking RTA shop, bro.
Wait,
can't do it.
I will actually say I don't think an RTA shop is needed. I don't know. Maybe I'm like the only one person who thinks that, but I just don't see the need of an RTA shop.
I'm sending the truck now.
Feel free to disagree with me if I'm misreading this, right? You don't personally need an RTA shop, but I think a lot of casual players would benefit a lot and would be more willing to engage with RTA as a game mode if they got, like, I don't know, cosmetics or a skin or, like, a different particle effects or a character's S1. If, like, you know, them playing a match a day for a season or, like, you know, every week they play 7 matches got them, like, a cool skin or a particle effect.
Well, that's fair. I mean, okay, the way I see it is you play RTA for fun. So,
yeah, it is the infinite game mode, right? Like, I didn't summon, I don't know, like Navy Captain Landy just to stick her in every defense team and then forget about her, right?
Yeah. You guys are making too much sense now.
Can I also just add about Guild Wars? Like, can we just keep preseason mystics the same as the regular season?
Oh,
I just don't see any reason to have it reduced for like any reason that's good for anyone. Like, I don't know.
I see the reason, Vic. It's the same reason that they made it so that you went from getting infinite artifact charms to only 10 in Ancient Inheritance. The reason's fuck you. I don't know.
Oh yeah, they did do that in AI. They did do that,
and it's the one thing me and Tristan every time we get in a room with Smilegate and they ask, "Is there anything you'd like to see?" That's the same thing we say every time. Is personally the artifact change was a fuck you.
Kind of was, huh?
Yeah, it's the same thing with the resets for Mystic. So 100% behind you on that one, Vic.
All right. Any other points you want to make? If not, we'll move you out. We'll give the floor to some other people waiting in the voice calls.
No, I don't got anything else to say. I'm anti-controversy now.
Oh, okay. Nice. That's a good stance to be having, dude.
You come a long way, brother.
Now we get to talk about the war.
All right, man. Thank you for your time today. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Let's move in Keen next. All right, Keen, how you doing, man? What you got to add for the notes for today?
Oh wait, I thought someone was in front of me. Okay.
Oh, was he in front of you? I'm sorry. I couldn't really tell. It seemed
Yeah.
like you guys were in at the same time.
Okay. Well, anyway, I do have a lot of RTA related opinions.
Okay.
We've talked a lot about Emma Ilinov. We've talked about defense pin being a thing. Um, I think that one of the issues that I have with RTA and how they balance the game is when they introduce a lot of a specific mechanic that doesn't have any form of interaction. Defense pin is a good example of this. You've talked about there being so many defense pin units that are strong, and in the meta, we
Mhm.
can't really interact with defense pin as a mechanic. That's why they're so strong. I think that as far as DJ Ray, that's also another issue is we don't have any way to really interact with injury. It's just there, and once it's there, you can't do anything about it. We don't have any units that we have units that interact with DJ Ray, but nothing that actually interacts with injury as a mechanic. And so as we get more and more and more injury units, eventually I think we're going to see similar issue, and they're going to try and sell us a unit that can actually interact with injury. I think as far as gearing, we also have an issue where we have a lot of units who completely ignore what you're building. So like, i.e., if you're building a ton of health, injury gets rid of that. If you're building a ton of defense, defense pin gets rid of that. If you build a ton of effectiveness or effect resist, ignore ER kind of just says, hey, your gear's not valid. It doesn't, I don't care what you have. It's gone.
Right.
And
Right.
as far as units like ML Ilinov, I think there's a few units that fit into a category similarly to her. I think that Sea Phantom Politis is a good example of a unit that like shuts off half the units in the game that rely on a certain thing. And they do it in a more healthy way than units like Solitaria or Elvira, where it's like you totally just don't get this when you draft them. But I think that that is another thing for the balance team to take a look at is like, well, how can we introduce these mechanics without penalizing units that are already not that strong? Because a lot of times what I think happens is the units that they are intended to work very well against are still units that kind of don't care anyways, kind of like ML Landy and ML Euphine. I don't think that they really care that their rage isn't going up as much sometimes, depending on how you build them or how they're drafted.
Right. Right. Of course. So we covered all that. So what's the main point you're making with this one?
I just think that when they are balancing, they need to think about mechanics that we currently have that don't have any interaction. I don't think that they should just release things that totally shut things off, but like
So
try
if
to give
I'm
us some interaction so
understanding
that when we draft, it's still interesting.
right. So what if I'm understanding your point correctly? Right. You think they should remove units that should put up pen resistance, but as a buff instead of a passive. They should have units that have injury purge.
I think it depends on how they're implemented, but kind of yes. Kind of yes.
Kind of, yes.
It depends on how
okay,
they're
okay. So
implemented.
because I'm
I
trying to
think that when
represent
they've-
your point to Smilegate here, right? What would make
Yeah.
it an absolute yes over a kind of yes? Like at the end of the day, right? This needs to be something I can write up in my notes and send to Smilegate and be like, so this is what the what people in chat thinks, right?
Well, so I actually think Ilinov is kind of the healthier variant of some of the units that we have in the game that for stop mechanics, because we have things like Emma Luna, and it's like, okay, you just don't get a passive if I take first turn for the most part, unless maybe you have like an evasion unit on your team that like evades her or something like that. I think that we just need more ways to interact with mechanics that don't totally shut off that type of unit, if that makes sense.
So
Okay,
less stuff like Bellion and Solitaria, and more stuff like
See Phantom Politus? I'm just
Maybe-
trying to understand the point mostly.
something like
Yes.
Hovera.
Yeah, well, so firstly, I think that the units that totally shut off a mechanic is healthy for drafting at all. But then when you do introduce units that are like Emma Ilinov or Sea Phantom, just make sure that they're balanced in a way where the units that still rely on those mechanics that aren't doing well can still exist. Because currently, you know, we have something like Sea Phantom Politis, and I think she was most definitely intended to deter things like Emma Landy.
Right,
and
right.
Emma
So
Euphine.
I understand, you know, the
But-
main complaint here, right? But you know, you're saying, well, this isn't good for the game. This isn't good for the game. A is bad, B is bad, C is bad, right? So from a dev perspective, that's not like feedback they can use, right? So what I am saying, asking for you is, how would you phrase that, or how would you balance it in a way where it's like, well, instead of doing this, do this instead, right? Because
One thing is
otherwise it's
maybe
not
just consider-
valuable feedback for a dev, right? I can tell them, well, the players hate this. Well, yeah, like I'm sure Smilegate already knows that, but what can they do instead, right?
It's a tough
I
question.
think one thing is to consider unit diversity. first and foremost when they're implementing certain things into the game. Like, I think that a lot of times when they implement heroes that are very strong or could potentially be very oppressive, they do it in a way where like, okay, but the, I don't know, 5 or 6 units that you would maybe be able to like 5th pick or 4th pick, they totally get shut out because there's no way you're picking them, and the oppressive units that you're intending them to counter are still not very affected by it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure I catch on to the point, but if you find out like a more concrete way to phrase that, you know, and this goes out to everybody in the chat. If you guys have, you know, you don't want to come on stream, you're like a bit peepo shy, like hit me up in the DMs, you know.
Yeah, do you have Keen? Do you have an example of a unit that you have in mind that kind of was aligned with your thought process or theory that you're kind of trying to portray?
Not that this unit is balanced, but I think that Laya is a good example of a unit that's like, okay, we have a problem with a ton of things that are being debuffed. Now, I think she's oppressive because they added other things in her kit that make it that way when you're drafting her, but she doesn't like totally stop the other player's game plan when you're drafting her a lot of times. She just alters the way that the tempo of the game is going, rather than saying, you just can't do this. And you actually have to think about when to use her skills. You can't just like always press them to press them.
To build on your point, I can offer like Dragon Knight Sharoon as a unit that checks a mechanic instead of countering a mechanic, right? She's not oppressive, but she has clear like counterplay with her S3 buttons. But it's not like her S2 shuts out the sleep mechanic, I guess.
Yeah, that's another good example of a unit that does that.
Okay.
Basically, what I'm hearing is maybe to...
Oh, I think another unit would be Vivian, Sylvan Sage Vivian, where she like stops. She can't be diva up herself, but the way that they implement it is in a way where like she has to meet a condition for that to happen. Like she can't just always do that.
Okay, yeah, I think I understand your point, and that'll definitely be in the notes. Thank you for coming on and making that point. So before you go, I'm gonna ask this for everybody. If you could add one type of content to the entire game, what would you add?
I think that they should make Draft Arena permanent. Or not Draft Arena. Yeah, Draft Arena.
Like
they should make it
draft-
permanent. I
like
think
draft
it's really
mode?
good for newer players. Yeah, Draft Arena.
Are you talking about
Like the one in the middle.
queued up draft mode?
Yep. The one that they have only
Are you
available.
are
at
you talking about the
certain
one where
times.
they should just make it instead of like 6 hours during the day is 24 hours?
Yeah.
Did you
I
play
think that
that
they
when
should
that
do it that
happened? Because
way.
I did a lot. I practiced for the draft tournament I played in with YD and Lakari. Did you see what happened?
Yeah.
I smashed the same guy 6
No, I
games in a
didn't
row.
watch it.
There's not enough people that play that mode.
Oh,
I
gosh.
smashed literally the same guy 6 games in a row. It's just
Now,
the
when-
first game I smashed them. The second game I smashed them. The third game I smashed him. I just knowledge gapped him every single game. Even when he got lucky, I smashed him 6 games in a row. And then the next time I queued for like 3 whole minutes because nobody else was queuing for it. Like I'm as much as I would be like, that's great.
The only reason why I suggest that is just so that newer players have a chance to like learn the units and how they interact with RTA, so that they can make more decisions for themselves regarding like units that they want to save for, playstyle wise, things like that. I just think that
I don't disagree with you.
I think for
right?
newer players.
Yes, it is good for newer players. I'm not disagreeing with you, but I am saying not enough people queue for that mode. So the reason it's time gated is because it's just simply not enough people queuing. So if you queue, you want to at least play against not the same person who's going to smash you 6 times in a row, right? Like if you look at the people who practice for that event, like Volcanics, for example, he showed me logs where he smashed some guy like 8 times in a row. Like it was literally one poor guy who was getting smashed because he was at like a 99% win rate across like 80 or 90 games. It was ugly, bro. Like I understand why they put that in. Now, if they have somehow had a way to be able to implement, I don't know, rewards, for example, right? Because that's the easiest way to get anybody to do anything in this community. Like, sure, they could probably untime gate it, but as is, it's gonna be hard, right? It is. What
I was
it
gonna
is.
say if they were to put rewards in a PvP game mode like a shop, I think this would be the one that they should put it in, not RTA.
Why not? ¿Por qué no los
But yeah,
dos?
that's all I got.
amigo?
Do both. I'm always down for more rewards.
Yeah, there we go. All right, well, shop for draft mode. Thank you for coming on, man. Yeah, if you have any other points, let me know in the DMs, or if you want to really like hammer in and you know, really nail in one of the points that I'm sending over to Smilegate.
Got it.
All right, so after that, I got Flammable coming on. I want to talk to this guy a lot, so I'm getting my boy Grills here. Hey, what's going on, dude? How you doing today?
Pretty good.
All right, so how you feeling about the topics we talked about? What do you well, I mean, I know exactly what you're passionate about. Maybe you want to introduce yourself to the chat, talk to everybody about what you're very passionate about, what you do. Also, your biggest victim, Ace Trainer, is also here. Do you have any words for him, Ace? Do you have any words for Grills?
Two good games, man. It was a few seasons ago, but good games, dude.
It was good. It was kind of RNG. It wasn't like a 100% outplay or something. It happened.
Reg, if you're in the chat, please pull up the image. I would love to show that on screen.
Oh my god.
So, to introduce everybody to Flammable, aka in-game name Grills, he plays only fire units in RTA, and he's. Would you say you're an Emperor player or Emperor adjacent?
Oh, I was Emperor last season, or not the one that just ended, but the season before that, and I didn't play the season that just ended.
Okay, I might need to hide a bunch of stuff on screen, but I just want you guys to know, this guy picked Kane into Ace Trainer in RTA, and he turned him into a Rift boss.
The good image.
Yep.
Really like it.
So Ace Trainer got like, that's a legend player, you know. He got absolutely cleaved by a pure fire mono fire player. So, you know, you're one of the guys I really like seeing and play anytime we cast a tournament, just because, like, for new players, you know, if you want to play a gimmick team, you could do anything as long as you put thought in behind it, right?
There's a lot of thought that goes into how I play. It's possible, but don't just. I'm not randomly drafting to be able to do this. So.
Hey, absolutely. I mean, another person we love in the community is I don't know if you've seen him around, Fudo. So he was, I think, just a mid to high champ level player, but his main thing was he would play Chaos Inquisitor every game.
I really like Chaos Inquisitor. I wish he was good.
Oh man,
he's actually just so sad.
Are you Grills in game?
Yeah.
Man, I hate you and I love you.
Yeah, I remember a season ago. I remember I ran into you a few times. I think I ended up going 1-1 to you overall at the end of season, so it wasn't. Now I'm remembering more. Yeah, but.
Yeah. I have a lot of flashbacks of losing to Benny Maru, so thank you for that.
Yeah. Before I talk about anything else, I kind of jumped in recently, so I only caught the last two people talking. So talking about like Guild Wars and the resource stuff, or C-Poly or some other stuff.
Right.
Did anyone else cover anything pretty relevant?
We actually covered a lot, so I got a whole page of notes here. So to give you a rundown, because you just came back to the game recently, right?
Yeah, I kind of took like a month break, and I unfortunately missed Fire Ida.
Oh, that's rough. But
so I gotta wait 6 months for that.
So the quick and dirty of basically what happened and why people are pissed off is Pyro Captain Flan was originally going to get buffed. Now that got reverted.
I did see that.
Yeah. Right? And that kind of cut into the community in a way where we have the 6th anniversary right now, and everybody's like hype, right? We got a lot of returning players, but the issue is like now there's kind of this weird vibe in the community where we're just like, so, you know, we're coming back to play the game, but our balance decision being driven by stove comments, because that doesn't give me a whole lot of confidence to want to stay in this game, right? Which is kind of a common take a lot of people have. So we talked about that. We talked about whether or not like the debuff meta is good, whether or not you like playing with a lot of debuffs as your main win condition via like Lunale talked about earlier with Knock Wall. We talked about Death Dealer Ray earlier. If you watch E7WC, Death Dealer Ray was first picked every single freaking game he was up, right?
Yeah.
Do people like third pick ban protection? Because it seems like a lot of lower rank players really like it, but high rank players absolutely despise it and wants it to go as soon as possible. And we only had it for a season, and usually gimmicks stay for, 2 or more seasons, right? What actual units could be buffed, how that could help like free-to-play players. We actually covered a whole bunch of topics.
And the thing is, I don't want to go over it again if you've already done like an hour and a half of specifically that stuff. So I have a few things I want to say, but it might just be repeats.
Okay, yeah, no worries. Just give me rapid fire. If any of them aren't already in the notes, I'll make sure to put them in.
Okay. So, first thing you mentioned that you went over. Wow, it instantly left my.
Pirate Captain Flan nerfs.
Yes, okay. So I remember that they were going to make changes to Urvalen at one point, and then they essentially undid those. Do you remember exactly that situation? Like, did they end up
I remember Urvalen. I
or...
remember Oxlots were the one people were really up in arms about, and both of those got axed.
Yes, yeah. So, my personal opinion is, for Captain Flan specifically, I feel like they were making too much of a change to her kit. Obviously, I don't use ML units, so I'm not using this unit regardless of whether they stay the same or they get changed. I feel like the unit still... Again, very biased opinion. I feel like I saw them enough that it wasn't really a change was necessary. At least, like, I don't know if it's fair to compare Captain Flan to, like, the super minority of you never see these units ever. But I felt like, as Captain Flan was, it wasn't an issue that needed to be changed. And it almost felt like they were trying to add in a kit that could have been on a new unit or on an old unit that doesn't see any use. Although, obviously, with Urvalen, I don't think hardly anyone uses Urvalen. They couldn't get those changes through either. So, it's just hard. That one's just a tough one, because I don't know how a good way to solve that. But obviously, the issue is people don't like it when they have the unit that they're using, and then they try and repurpose the unit without, like... I don't even know if you can give a good enough justification to make people not upset when they try and remake a unit like that.
I think just as like one example of a matchup that really needs to be solved, right? The reason why they buffed Pirate Captain Flan was very specifically Empyrean Illinav, because now all the defense pen units don't work, right? So you have to have a debuff-based damage character who can also defense break, so you can really punch through all that HP pool she has, because debuff-based damage is terrible against HP scaling units, right?
So I did mention I haven't played the last season, but I have played some preseason now.
Yeah.
I actually felt like Empyrean Illinav was really balanced to play against. Like, there have been times where a new unit comes out, like Blood Moon Haste, or sorry, the updated Blood Moon Haste, I guess, not a new unit, but like Seapoly, they come out and I see them in RTA for the first time, and I'm like, wow, I never want to see this unit again. I didn't really have that with Illinav, didn't really have that with Bride Senya.
Did you have that with Luna?
I'm actually kind of... Oh, yeah. Well, okay, so let me say, at lower ranks, I didn't have that with Luna. And then I found someone who drafted Luna with Mudwig. And then I did have that with Luna, where it felt like there's no interaction that can be done here to make this winnable for me if they get these two units. Obviously, I can ban one, but then you're like a force ban that early in a draft is so hard to deal with.
Right. Yeah, so, I mean, it's always like different levels of units will have different performances at different skill brackets, right? I feel like, almost to your point there, Empyrean Illinav is a lot like Luna because it blocks you from picking all the good units with passives. It blocks you from picking all the good units with defense pen. And the moment you hit a high bracket with those, it makes it clear to your opponent when you get away with the first pick Luna. If the other guy starts picking all the good passive units, they're banning your first pick Luna, and you can just checkmate them on pick 5, right? Same thing with Illinav. Right? If the other guy starts picking defense pen units, they're banning your Illinav, so you just checkmate them on 5 because you're getting your pick 5 unit through, right? It's almost like getting ban protect off fifth pick when you start seeing that.
And you actually made a comment earlier about, like, are they listening to stove comments for balance stuff? They changed Kane at one point, and I tried my best to make a fuss to say, wow, I really don't like these changes. And, like, a summary was they were removing his 50 initial fighting spirit and then giving him a few other things, and they also nerfed his damage on his extra attack or something like that. But overall, I wasn't happy with the changes. I made a comment in like, oh, here's your patch notes. Give us a comment here to say how you like it. And I made it clear, like, this doesn't feel good to look at, and I'm sure it's not going to be good to play with. And I'm sure no one uses Kayn still anyway after the changes. So it's like, it felt like a wasted change on the balance patch that happened, and I wasn't satisfied with it. But I think not enough people made a fuss about it, so they didn't like cancel it or do something else. So I do wonder how much they rate the stove comments and stuff when it comes to balance.
Okay, yeah, because, like, yeah, mostly it was, like, the Ervelyn stuff, the Oxlot stuff, and then this particular time with PFlan, so, kind of curious to see what's going on. Anything I can add into the notes for it from you?
The issue is to make that situation good for me, specifically referring to how I felt about the Kayn changes. I was not happy with the Kayn changes, but not enough people use Kayn or care about Kayn to cause issues with the changes that they were making. It also felt like, this happens sometimes with balance patches too, why are they trying to make such a balanced change to a unit that already doesn't see use? Why don't they just, I don't know, go a little crazy and then maybe the unit sees some use and then dial it back? They've already shown they're willing to dial something back if it's crazy. They don't do it all the time. They hardly do it anyway, but it's always an option. It's weird that they would completely cancel a whole unit change or a remake of the kit, but not be willing to make these smaller adjustments if the community doesn't like them, or if it has bad results on the stats and stuff or whatever.
Okay.
So
okay.
It almost felt like a disguised nerf, is I guess my complaint. I think they should be more careful when they're removing aspects of a kit.
Gotcha.
Actually, that does come up a little bit with Captain Flan, because I think overall it should have been a buff. But I think some people were upset because they looked at it like a nerf, because she lost that soul burn on S1 or something.
Yeah, I mean, the issue with Captain PFlan nerf is, like, she has 67% on uptime with pillage, and if they gave her the soul burn back, that is 100% uptime on basically a like, that doesn't sound healthy. Like, I don't know about that one. You know what I mean? I don't think she...
I already dislike Captain Flan S1 soul burn, so I'm like, yeah. I'm not saying I would have been happy if she had that on top of the kit changes, so... Yeah, it's just weird with, like, that kind of stuff and balancing public opinion and making everyone happy, so...
Gotcha. Okay, so before you go, I always gotta ask the same question. What content do you think should be added to the game?
So... I almost feel like... Well, there's two things. Okay, first, Guild War. I wanted to mention, you were talking about it earlier that I did catch. I feel like they could add, I don't know, some sort of fort-specific effects. So the one guild can choose different effects to apply for every tower in a fort area.
Oh, okay.
And then it would be like, you talked about having like season effects, or like certain elements of units are affected, but instead of like everyone is affected, the guild picks which effects apply to which fort and every tower in that area. I feel like that would be interesting, or even like you have one hidden unit. Okay, I am not a huge Guild War person, let me just say that. So some of these ideas probably have, like, I don't know.
Okay, so you know, this might obviously be skewed towards different play styles, and feel free to oust yourself or not oust yourself, but let's say, like, if a guild says every fort or every attacking unit here needs to be a fire unit, you know, it could kind of turn a Guild War defense into like a Pokemon gym type of effect, right? Like, would you think that would make things more interesting, and that's kind of what you're going for?
I wouldn't say I was going quite that strict, like a literal restriction on units that can go in and out.
Okay.
But just some sort of change or stat change that is significant enough that it's like, okay, I'm just going to use the stat counter. Okay, this is the most optimal counter to this team, so we're just going to throw that in and go with that. But something to change it up a little bit. But,
okay.
that was one. And then the other thing that I was going to say that I think might not be popular is I think they need to have more automated ways to do content that's currently in the game. Specifically expeditions, but I think that could be applied to other things. I really dislike expeditions.
Okay. You know how we get like 10 auto battles per day that instantly clears,
Yes.
right? Apply that to expeditions. Any disagreeers?
I wish
Yeah, that's
even
fine.
more than that. I think it should be you get an expedition, you click a button, and then you send your team out for, I don't know, like 10, 30 minutes, and then the expedition's dealt with. I do not want to have to open the expedition, have it sit on my screen, be punished because I have a good team, so it goes as like 600k damage, and then like do that 5 times every time my rift runs finish. I absolutely hate that part of doing the game, and honestly, most days I skip it because I just don't want to deal with expos.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think expeditions now, as is, it's become a big nuisance, right? Because you're just stuck staring at it no matter what. So that's definitely something we could put in.
I definitely think it could be repurposed because there should be incentive to make a good team, but making a good team right now means you spend more time on the expo screen because you're dealing more damage and taking more turns, and it's just that doesn't make any sense.
Yep. Okay. No, I agree with that. So let's see. Okay, well, thank you very much for coming in today, man. If you want anything else added to the notes, my DMs are always open to you or anybody else that's... Bro, I'm fucking looking at Poodz coming in. Oh, Poodz is gonna yap. I'm fucking ready. Thank you for joining me, man.
Yeah, nice to talk to you.
Yeah, great to finally speak to you, man.
Real quick, I got a dip for dinner with my fiance, so have a good night.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, and I look forward to watching the video.
Yep, have fun, Vic. Have fun. We'll see you
Same
around,
here.
brother. Congrats again on the engagement, man.
Thank you. Update Guild War.
Congrats, I didn't hear about that.
Oh, yeah, I got engaged. Thanks, man.
See you, Vic. Also, I'm gonna dip too.
Later, bro. All right, well,
So,
bro, Platy. You
thanks
think
for
I forget
having
about
me.
you, man? I ain't forgetting about you. You're coming
Hell
up.
no.
All right, you know what? I don't know if anybody else is coming up. It looks like Ace is done too. Let's just drag Poodz in. We can turn this into a flustercluck. So let's get it. All right. So
All right.
what do you guys want to talk about? I'm
There's a
putting
lot
in
of
everything
things.
down in notes for Smoutgate, by the way.
Okay, you don't have to put down everything that I say, but there is some stuff that should be talked about, I think.
Okay.
First things first, we kind of talked about it with Stove, right? And how they nerfing and balancing based off of Stove posts, and I kind of want to just iterate that at a more broad scale when it comes to like. I think one of the issues that Smilegate has is that they cater a lot of their in-game decisions to like the turbo casuals, which then makes the game worse for the people who want to make it more competitive. And then that in turn makes it worse for like the highest tier of competition when it comes to like RTA. Right. So I would really like them to kind of like not be so spineless when it comes to like unit decisions, right? And someone in your chat was talking about it, and they mentioned like, oh, but my molas, and it's like, oh, but my resources that I invested into this unit, and we briefly talked about it, and I put it in a point too in like one of my comments, but I really just wish that, and I think that if this game is to last another few years, they really do have to stop. And you brought it up with the lines of text, right?
Yeah.
They have to stop making their balance changes add like 3 more lines of text to this new unit that we are releasing, and make it we're going to remove lines of text from the units that we have already released. Because the biggest thing with their balance decisions now is we can't nerf because casual Jimmy is going to cry. And that's kind of going to just kill the game, which sucks.
Yep. Yeah.
Because this is a game that we all enjoy. Or I guess some enjoy more than others, but like it's a game that we've all played for a long time. But like even like what I'm reading now, right? Like there shouldn't be a refund if they decide to nerf a unit.
I agree.
The
I
idea
think you
of
could
a-
like reset a Nerf unit to like level 1 and then get all your resources back, but I don't think you should like fully refund everything and get a selector, right? We already have that system. right? Even if they change a line of text on an existing unit, like you get a free pass for 2 weeks to decide if you want to reset your unit or not. And I think that's good enough.
Mm-hmm. Another thing that I kind of wanted to maybe help explain the point that the first guest made, where there should be less. This is going to be like a Yu-Gi-Oh term, if anybody's ever played Yu-Gi-Oh.
Mm-hmm.
There should be less floodgate units that they release. The floodgates being cards, in Yu-Gi-Oh terms, it's a card that says your opponent does not get to do X. So maybe to help emphasize what he was trying to say is just like, units like Solitary, units like Bellion, right, that floodgate and say my opponent cannot do X because I have this unit. I think a really good thing, and we see it with Berseria, is but like for future unit releases, I would really like it to be a double-edged sword.
I agree. So if I'm understanding correctly, a floodgate is Bellion blocks out all souls, Ilanav blocks all defense pen damage, especially on a passive, right?
Yes, like a passive. So it's like passive floodgates, like by purely existing, they do X. It is just not fair in like an RTA design, right? Where like I get to lock my opponent out of doing X, and I get to reap all the benefit. Granted, like with Berseria, there's really funny pictures, right, of people drafting Arby, and then they ban protect their Berseria. They're like, "Oh, I'm a genius," and then their Arby dies.
Oh,
and like,
oh no!
Oh no! Like,
No, I
where's
agree.
my Arby? I think making those double-edged swords like would make the units healthier.
Yeah,
right?
like, if you play Bellion, then it should just make sure both players can't have souls unless the Bellion is sealed. I feel like if Ilanav is there, then both players are not really doing damage through penetration. Then you gotta play through the good old way, right? Like, either one of those ways would have made the game, like, it would put the game in a healthier spot, as opposed to, okay, I'm not gonna pick Ilanav, right? But or rather, I'm picking Ilanav not because I want to play her, but because I want to play all the defense penetration units, because if I don't pick her, the other guy picks her, and then I can't play them. So I'm going to pick her, and the other guy can't play defense penetration, and now I drop all the defense pen on him, and he's dead. Wow.
What else did you guys go over? You went over, like... Could you just give me a reminder real quick?
PFlan, debuff meta, what units should actually have gotten buffed,
so
new content, can the balance team make changes that align with the interest, how did the balance team make changes that align with the interests of the community, yada yada.
So, with like debuffs, I think debuffs inherently are fine. I think that kind of playstyle like is like a legitimate way to play the game, right? Mm-hmm. I do think we lack, and this is more of an in-game like mechanic, right? We lack a really good way to fight back against it outside of the units like Laya or like Hangai, right?
Right.
That kind of shrug off their debuffs and are able to cleanse.
Mm-hmm.
I think if we had more units, or just they changed the way effectiveness and FRES work, because right now that current in-game interaction makes it really, really hard to like actually build a unit. Like let's look at MO Arcades, right? I know you don't have the unit, but like that unit sucks.
Yeah, that unit's fucking awful. I mean, I'm good at playing against her because I'm
like,
a fast player.
People
I play
pick
Payra.
that unit, and they're like, "This is my counter to debuffs," and then she just does nothing, and you're like, "Wow, like this unit sucks.
I think, yeah, so we were talking, actually having a conversation about this earlier, and this was actually a thing we did this morning, and Poodz is here. So I first picked ML Luna, and Poodz third pick Band Protected Infinite Horizon Acades last night. We played a series of best of threes. I soul burned my Luna into 4 units. ML Acades Press S3. His Aria even got greater attack buff and crit damage buff. I was like, damn, that looks scary. So in theory, you would think she's good. But then the rest of my units just killed his Aria and killed all the damage dealer on his team before he even got to play the game. So I think, specifically for ML Acades, if you want her to work, the amount of debuffs she's reverting should always be consistent with the buff she gives, right? Like, make the first one debuff, make the second one immunity, and then as you're inverting more debuffs, it should just be like, okay, the third one is something useless, like effectiveness, and the fourth one is like maybe a barrier scaling to like, you know, her little measly HP, so that doesn't matter. But if you ever hit that like cash money zone of the 5th and 6th range of debuffs, then she should just give something like invincibility for a turn. She should just start giving evasion, like give all the crazy shit on the 5th and 6th debuff, right? Like give her some kind of consistency where you can always play around as a player, not just she's a cleanser and then hopefully you get some good buffs with her so that you can actually make a tempo swing come back, right? This way, you're punishing like 1 to 2 debuffs, 3 to 4 debuffs don't really make a difference to you, and by debuff 5 and 6, like if somebody really don't play around you well, you're hard punishing them.
So another thing that they could do is like, you know how ML Sharoon cares about class? Like the buffs that they give are relative to the class of the unit that it's cleansing. Would also be a really good way to look at that, right? Like, I don't want my Soul Weaver to have Gab. I want my Soul Weaver to have, like, a defense buff. Like, a defense buff, a barrier, like, continuous healing. Things that help them stay alive. And I want my damage dealers to have greater attack buff. And it feels just really, really, really dog shit when you're like, oh, cool, what is this unbuffable going to turn into? And you're looking at your Destina with Gab. And you're looking at your defense buff, like, I don't know, BBK, and you're like, wow, my Destina skill 1 is going to go crazy. I think another cool thing that they could do, and maybe I've been playing too much Summoner's War, but there's a unit in Summoner's War called Shizuka, and I really, really, really like this unit's design. So her skill 3 basically says any debuff that has been applied, you get to apply it back to your opponent. As like
like Green Bazaar S1, but AoE.
Yeah, so it's like equal opportunity for everybody, right?
Okay.
So it's like, cool, you gave me defense buff, unbuffable, all this stuff, and then you get to put it back. You get that now. Granted, it was very strong in Summoner's War. It actually ended up getting nerfed. But units like that I think are cool because like we have units like Champ Z, and Champ Z is a selfish unit, right?
Right.
And we don't really have like units that are like cool, like you hit me or like I transfer debuffs back and it's like good for the team, right? So I think that would help with the debuff meta a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, I see a lot of people talking about actually nerfing units. It's crazy.
It's crazy how much nerfing a unit can actually balance a game. Isn't that insane, guys?
And I think Ace brought this up too, and he said something that I thought was really funny when he said like my rare units. And like Summoner's War doesn't have, or sorry, not Summoner's War. Epic 7 does not have rare units. This game, units are so incredibly accessible. Granted, right? Like a free-to-play player is not going to have everything, but they have pretty damn good access to some of the best units in the game. It sucks to say this, but like I think the reason why we get nerfs in Summoner's War as opposed to Epic 7 in general is because of unit diversity. E7 because everybody has everything at the highest level. So like when they cater to the beginning player that just use their like ML connection on DDR and then nerf DDR, right? Like that feels a little shitty, but I think it still just needs to happen.
Yep, no, I agree.
And then I wish Guild Wars had more meaning.
Yeah,
Guild
I mean,
Wars...
I think most of the time, like the boys in the guild, like the most unified the guild is like 2 times, right?
Yeah.
For us, at least for our guild, for Veritas, one is the last 2 days of the RTA season, bro. All 60 members are fucking sitting in call, watching like we're watching Trap go through it, we're watching Ace Trainer go through it, we're watching Derp fucking go through it. Right?
Oh boy, we love the Tiny Emmy streams.
Well, bro, the Tiny Emmy streams are fucking fire. Tiny Wing's my fucking goat, bro.
Yeah, he's my goat, bro. Throw it up for 8 hours plus 10. Let's go.
Plus 10 points, bro. And the entire time he's just in chat getting flamed by fucking AB and Lunale the entire time.
Yes.
Like, I'm not even hate watching, but that shit is so fire, right? And then the second instance where Veritas is united as a guild is it's fucking Sunday and we still haven't gotten our fucking blue boxes.
Yes,
right?
man.
And then we're just gonna have to gun down anybody who hasn't done their goddamn fucking weeklies, right?
Yes. So, I do like. The problem is, right? Guild War is so long, like, gone, right? Like, there's almost no point. You can't really recover what they've done to Guild War as a game mode, right?
No.
Which makes it really hard because, like, let's say they made it more. There's more incentive to, like, hey, let's be a guild again. Let's do this content as a group of 30 guys. If they'd made that change, I guarantee you 70% of Veritas is not sticking around.
We're probably purging some people. We're probably making a guild 3 so they can retire there.
Yes. As cool as it would be to have the boys, like, rally together,
yeah,
it's not feasible. And I don't know how they fix that. As much as it sucks, RTA cannot be your only in-game content.
I agree. I think like we either need more new content or more, like Lunale said, repurpose your existing content so that it has more meaning, it has more of a challenge, and it has more maybe even rewards for endgame players, right?
Yeah. Like the reward system, like someone mentioned, like when we were talking about like reward system in RTA, they mentioned like FOMO as a way of like, oh, but I don't want to do RTA. So that would suck for me because then I wouldn't get the rewards and I'd miss out on all these cool things. And like, you don't have to do it, right?
Yeah.
Like the RTA rewards in Summoner's War, to put it in like E7 terms, right? Like, so for one match, I get like, let's say 4 points to put towards a single mystical scroll. And it's like 20 points for the mystical scroll. If I wanted like a previous RTA season skin, it's 3,000 points, right? So
yeah.
Even for someone that's like playing a lot, like you're not reasonably getting those. It's just a nice added bonus and you're not missing out because you can always just be like, oh, hey, now I want to do this, right? And it's still there. It doesn't go away. Like this is something that would be in the game that you would be like, oh, cool. If I wanted an extra 10 summons to put towards Frida Banner, right?
Yeah.
I'll play RTA this week. I'll get enough to get my 10 summons for the week and I'll call it a day. And then I don't have to touch RTA anymore. It's like, cool. That's great. So for the people that are grinding it, they're like, cool. Now, like, the people, like, feel a little bit better, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so, funny you mentioned, like, that RTA shop. So, me and Divine actually call a meeting with Smaugate community managers every month. Because that's part of the content creator program. You can call a meeting once a month and just talk about, like, the goings-ons in the community and stuff. As far as I'm aware, we're the only guys that do that, and we literally have a list of things we bring up every single month. RTA shop's one of them. More profile card slots, more profile card layers. What else? PC client, which now we got. So glad to know, like the constant bitching actually does something. So we're probably gonna keep doing that. So yeah, if you guys have stuff like that gets added to the list, we complain about every month. Oh yeah, more constant balance patches. Actually Nerf stuff. We say that every month, right? This is like a one-time thing where I'm like, I'm gonna compile for you guys a notes of all the stuff people want, and hopefully, like, you know, if I get a lot of stuff, like people take things more seriously, especially the balance team.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
I think another thing to make RTA more accessible for new players too is like the support unit list that Summoners War does, which I think is really cool, and I wish they would implement. Like E7 in its core is a Summoners War clone.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people forget that. So like when I make these references for Summoners War, I was like, people might not know. I've actually played Epic 7 for a long time. I don't really play much anymore, but I more recently went back to Summoners War because of the activeness that they take in making their game better. The support list is really cool. Having 12 predetermined units that have gear, have the artifacts, and allow like new players to be like, cool, like I can play with these units that they're giving me and like kind of see what it's like to play RTA. You can in Summoners War, you could theoretically draft with the 12 units that they give you every season.
Oh, is it like in League when you get like 10 free champions every week you can play with?
Yeah, so it's a rotation, right? Like every season there's 12 units that they pick out and they do a variety of things, but most of the time it's determined based on like how good the units are in previous metas and stuff like that, right?
Okay.
And it's cool that they they're just like, cool, like play with these units. Like I don't have these units when I play RTA and Summoner's War now, right? I'm missing some of the units that would make my RTA better, but they're free this season, so I still get to play with them.
Okay, I got scared for a second because I thought you were implying like you can pull support from your friends list like we do in U7.
No.
So like if I have Jello or Bob Jaxall at it, I can just take my dick out and piss all over Asia server. I was like, damn, oh word, bro, it's like that. I have Jello at it. I'm gonna add Bob next.
Like the rune quality is not insane, but it's good enough to like be. You don't feel like absolute shit picking it.
Okay, gotcha.
So it's predetermined rune sets. But max Smolud, you don't have to worry about. It's like you're playing with 12 graced units.
Okay, gotcha.
And it's available for everybody to use.
Yep. Okay, so it's exactly like League of Legends. You get
exactly
the 10 free characters every week, right? It's just been so long because that used to matter for me. That used to be when I tried out stuff, so I knew what to buy next, right? That was huge. So I guess you can. Would you say it's balanced if you even just take like the draft mode stat line and slapped it in there? Like, would you say that's balanced, or you say like maybe even a little bit less from that?
I would say no, only because the draft mode is based off of actual like people's units.
Oh, okay. So it's got to be a bit more like cookie cutter than that.
The units that are like the runes that they have are like passable for, let's say, like challenger to champ. And then as you get past champ, like into mid champ, closer to amp, you are now struggling if you're only drafting those units because the gear differential is very apparent.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I'll throw that into the list.
So it's really good at like getting new players that like, because let's say they have DDR but they have no one else.
Right.
They're like, cool, I can still play with these units that are given.
Okay, yeah.
And I think that is a pretty good way to incentivize people to maybe try out RTA. Because I know a lot of people, they don't play RTA because they don't want to just get shit on all the time, right? And there's legitimate, like, ladder anxiety, right?
Yeah.
Like, people don't like pressing play. And I think maybe they would feel a little bit more confident pressing play if that was the case.
Okay, yeah. No, I got you. I like it. Also, seeing as some of the other boys want to have dinner and when to go on their dates, you down to host the rest of this with me? Because we still have a few guys who are looking to yap. All right, so, we'll probably talk about more stuff later, but Poodz, what are you trying to yap about?
Bro, I just want to greet my Oni-chan.
I'm disconnecting Poodz from the call.
All right, yeah, go for it. Go for it. You got it. I'll pull in next person. All right, Phynixed, you've been waiting here for a while. Welcome on in, dudes. What you got to say?
Yo, what's up? All right, so let me just mute the stream real quick so I can actually hear myself. So I actually made a list of a couple of things I'd like to mention, but just to contextualize everything. I've been playing the game since release on and off, just so you guys know how much like experience I have with E7. RTA, I dove into it. I am a free to play player, so I wouldn't have been able to climb too far with how often I take hiatuses, but I am back now, and I am actually trying to push my account further. I've been refurbishing everything. But in terms of topics I have in mind, the first thing I kind of wanted to discuss was essentially the balancing perspective, right? Mm-hmm. So I think for balancing, it's very important that we can also play devil's advocate, with regards to how Smilegate sees balancing, and they don't want to nerf anything. They have they're kind of hard asses with that. They really just don't want to nerf. They would essentially have to kind of take a different route from just simply buffing units, right? And especially if we put into account that when they're releasing new units, they're deliberately trying to make them broken. So the first thing is unique interactions, right? One of the things, for example, we have is like the lion. She says no souls, right? Fuck souls. We don't want souls. By negating a whole ability, by negating a whole effect from RTA, that kind of it really limits playability and playstyle. One of the things that could be done, instead of negating things, it could mitigate it, kind of like Aureus mitigates damage, right? So if we were to kind of like change Belian up and just give an example, instead of it being 100%, it would mitigate soul gain by 25%, for example. That is I would say that's a reasonable and it's a balanced amount of mitigation to balance a unit, instead of it just completely shutting out an entire mechanic that's actually meant to be in the game, and it's pretty pivotal for a lot of units in the game as well.
Okay.
Uh,
And
Yeah, what would you like to say about that?
I mean,
I
I
actually
can
don't
just
hate
add
that
that to the
idea.
notes with the rest, because that kind of, you know, goes in with everything else we talked about when it comes to like floodgate units and stuff, right?
Yeah, but when we talked about Floodgate, we kind of talked about not wanting to have the mechanic, like no passives entirely. And I think that really removes the creative aspect of the game because there's
No,
only so much
that's
creativity
not
you
what
can
we talked
fit
about when it
into.
came to floodgates, dude. It was more like either make it global or make an active component to it, right?
Yeah, but I mean, you can do that for sure, 100%. But I'm just kind of bringing in a kind of like a new perspective where instead of it just being a double-edged sword, it just mitigates it. There's a mitigating factor that only one person can benefit from without it being absolutely broken. You're putting a limitation to it. So, for example, for
Yeah, no,
Illinois,
I got you.
of,
I've added that to
yeah.
the notes. And then what's the next point?
So so hard counters and soft counters. Obviously, I'm for actually having soft counters and hard counters. I think everything should have a counter. I do have balancing experience in a different game, and one of the things we typically take a look at isn't just like, okay, this unit directly counters this mechanic. It could be, if we want to take a different route, it could be it could be more interactive, right? So if instead of it hard countering, X unit could, if Y unit is on, if Y ability or debuff is on board, it could instead create some sort of other buff. Like if this unit is poisoned, if this unit has unbuffable, it kind of bypasses the unbuffable and actually gives a specific buff to a unit. So instead of just like completely shutting it out, you could kind of take a direction where you empower your units in a different way while maintaining them unbuffable. You won't be able to get any other buffs, but you can still get this buff because this condition is present.
So like a passive that's just when this character is debuffed, they do something.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So, but not for everything, because you still do want to target specific things in the game, right? So it could just be if this unit's unbuffable, give X buff to your team before the essentially that's my point. That's
Okay.
pretty much the entire
Okay.
point.
I kind of
and
like
then-
that. It reminds me of like like status effects in Pokemon where you
Yeah.
you would intentionally burn one of your own Pokemon to
just to like
get
guts
like a
it up.
buff. Yeah, so like think about like a unit that would passively, like if it has Venom, or like immune to sleep, if it has Venom, it does X, right? That would be kind of
exactly.
cool.
Exactly.
That would be kind of
So
cool.
If you know, I don't know, like again, I haven't gotten into RTA yet because I am refurbishing my entire account, but I have been watching RTA. If you take something like DDR, if you wanted to target DDR and other characters also have Venom. It's not just DDR, but DDR is just the most broken concept of it. If this character has Venom, you could, I don't know, CR push your entire team by 20%, give them a fighting chance. Essentially, that could ruin some of the speed tuning on the opposing team. It would force them to strategize a little more by instead of just tossing the Venom and being like, hey, okay, I have Venom out, you're fucked. No, you're gonna get CR pushed. You might actually be pushed ahead of some of my units who need to play right after DDR in order to proc the Venom. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
So
No, I get
that.
that. So I think my only thing with that is like if it just applies to Venoms, then your character kind of becomes really narrow, right? Because all of this is just basically stuff we can apply to new characters, right? Or like we can buff an existing character to do that. If I were to actually suggest a dev do that, I'd probably say something like if they have any damage dealing debuffs on them, like burn, bleed, venom, poison, all of that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you could definitely expand on it for sure. But something also keep in mind is the kit shouldn't just revolve around that counter, right? That unit should be able to do a couple of other things. But that counterplay is innately present within them, because it would kind of suck if DDR is out of the meta, for example, and you simply counter Venom and then this unit just gets tossed out because DDR is no longer relevant. You still want some sort of relevancy in the character, so you balance it in a way where this character does have applicable counterplay to Venom, but they have some form of other usage.
Okay, gotcha.
I think that's fine. My only counterpoint and like just devil's advocate to that is like,
Sure.
Not every unit has to be played all the time.
Oh, 100%.
So like I
meta
think
should shift.
it's good to kind of have like the ebbs and flows, right? Where like I get to play this unit now and then I don't get to play this unit. But then like the meta shifts and like this unit's good again, so then I get to re-gear it, and you kind of have like this flexibility with your unit pool where like this unit may not be good now, but like in the future it will be, and it doesn't have to be good all the time. But because I think one of the issues that we have right now is that there's too many units that are good all the time.
True. No, I completely agree with you, and I'm all for meta shifting. Again, I do balance another game, and we try our best to kind of like make sure the meta is consistently fresh in unique ways, right? So I'm all for meta shifting, and I think that it's very important for units not to be able to counterplay everything, but you know they do come back here and there within the meta. But enough about that point. I do have another interesting one, which is compositional strategy and gameplay. So instead of, I mean, right now we kind of saw this as more units have been being released, where it's no longer just about strategizing how you're going to, compose your team in RTA. It's becoming, we want to draft what's currently good, right? There's no longer any kind of strategy to it. You want ambitious Taiwan on the team. You want DDR on the team. It doesn't matter who's on the team. Those units, they are the team. Each unit represents the entirety of the team, and they're just that good.
I would say like that's a very non-experienced way to look at it, which is fine if you're like a casual player and you haven't like had too much experience. But when you play the game at a really high level, right, you'll know that one guy picks DDR first, the other guy goes Laya, and then some other unit. Right, it's usually like Laya, Bunny, Dom, and then the DDR guy would pick a Taiwan plus like Albedo or something, and then the Laya player would then pick Knockwolf, right? So it's not so much that like you're picking them disregarding like their composition, right? It's like Knockwolf is almost tied to the Laya player. The Bunny Dom is almost tied to the Laya player, right? Like something would have to go wrong for the other guy to pick the Knockwolf into the Laya. You know what I mean? So like in that sense, it is segmented into different compositions, but it's not in a very organic way. It's very reactive to the power levels of the units present.
Exactly. That's kind of the point I was trying to get across, where the unit is. It's more so, and this is simply, it could just be because of the draft system. It might not even be something that's possible, but I thought I would just get the point across in case Smilegate somehow has some sort of epiphany and they know how to implement it into the game, where you're typically trying to counteract what the balance is counteracting in RTA, right? It's no longer just about, okay, we want, what I'm talking more about is synergy. Having synergy within the composition, while not necessarily disregarding what the other player is playing, but as I'll just give you an example. Let's say Smilegate decides to come out with a unit that supports poison, right? You would be able to start creating poison comps. You'd be able to play a poison comp, and if you wanted to counterplay that, you build immunity, right? But what if this certain character has the ability to bypass immunity when X ability is used? When they use one of, like, let's say their S2, if they use their S2 for one turn, poison bypasses immunity, right? That would allow a person to not focus so much on what the counters are, but also how you want to build your own composition, because Ambitious Taiwan is its own unit, and it's so strong that it shifts the entirety of how the other person is going to play, and it's not necessarily, you're not building your composition around it. A Taiwan's just that good. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. I mean, it kind of goes both ways, right? Like there's the perspective of like, he's so good he can fit in every comp, and he's so good you can build any comp around him, right?
Exactly. And I think one of the best examples of this is the bomb. Do you remember Summertime Iceria bomb with Pirate Flan? That shit was super fun. There was counterplay to it, but you built a composition. Like you had, there's not enough bomb units to really form and to really have options. You have Summertime Iceria, Pirate Flan, maybe something else to kind of promote the bombing. You have a little bit of synergy with Burn, but if you provided more units with this type of synergy, it would promote more dynamic choices in building your composition. So the bomb comps is a prime example. If they had more bomb units with more options and a little more counterplay to what counters them, not necessarily hard counterplays, but like a one-turn counterplay where you're able to get some of your bombs off, kind of stuff like that promotes your own strategy in team building instead of it just being reactive.
Okay. Do you have like, is there a way for you to like organize that into like a solid sentence I can like type down to Smilegate? Like, hey, have units that enable like burn builds and enable poison comms, so that way, you know, it's possible. Oh God. Oh boy. Okay, what's up, Wind? Is he just trying to sit in here, or is he trying to make a point? What's going on?
I could send you a DM later. I could probably phrase it in a better way if you just give me a little bit of time.
Yeah, no problem, dude. I'm probably sending everything over on Sunday, so hey, feel free to take your time, dude.
Yeah.
Is that my goat?
That's my goat, Wind Demon.
The goat.
My nemesis. He's here to defend everybody I'm shitting on. Let's go.
Yeah, archetype drafting. I think I just for the chat, and I kind of like that kind of definition. It's like archetype drafting. You have specific compositions with, like, let's say there's like 8 characters that support a specific archetype, and you have the options between them. Archetype
so like basically Sea Phantom Politis enabling enrage comms, but maybe in like a lot less toxic way, where their kids just overloaded to stop literally fucking everything else.
Exactly. I think that would create a lot of dynamic. You have the ability to play the reactive way and build your comp that way, or you also have the innate ability, just like Flammable. He only drafts fire, right? But at the innate understanding of it is he has the composition in mind. He only wants to build fire units in his RTA teams. He's not playing anything else. So it could be similar to someone that wants to play a burn only draft, or someone that wants to play a poison only draft team, or just like weakening debuffs, like attack debuff, defense break, stuff like that. Just that kind of stuff.
Okay, gotcha. And then, do you have any other points? If not, I'm going to ask you the question I asked everybody else.
I think the next point. Well, actually, I'm going to answer that question with 2 points real quick.
Okay.
So one of them is new content, and one of them has to do with Guild Wars, since there's a lot of talk about Guild Wars.
Sure.
So one of the things I would like to see in Guild Wars is introducing scouting. I'm sure some people here have played League, and when you go into the I forget what, it's been a minute since I played League, but there's that one mode where it's like 5v5, and before you get into the 5v5, it lets you scout the other team's highest played units, and you have the opportunity to ban them out. But if you wanted to kind of integrate that into E7, it could be something like here's like 2 different ways to do it: letting you see top X players of the guild who typically perform really well in the guild, be able to see what their highest played character is, and you could ban it out from being used in that Guild Wars. Or alternatively, you could see what the guild's collectively most used offensive or defensive units are, and you'd be able to get 1 ban for an offensive and 1 ban for a defensive before you set them up. And in terms of the new content, I think a weekly tournament mode with conditions would be super fun.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I got. You guys have anything you want to add, or?
I think that's pretty good. Good to know that we got another game dev in the community throwing in their opinion, so that always adds to a lot of credibility of any document that we forward over to Smilegate, because a lot of times Divine says something, they do take it pretty seriously. So good to hear from you, dude. Thank you for coming in.
All right, no problem. Thank you for having me.
Have a good one.
Guys.
Later.
All right, Wind. Do you want to say anything, or are you just here to be another wall to bounce off of?
I guess I could probably say something. What were the main talking points again?
The PFlan buff, nerf, whether or not we actually like the debuff meta, third pick ban protect being a pretty big topic, buffs in general, like what you want to see buffed and how you think buffs should come about, and then new content. Those are the general directions.
If you thought the PFlan buff was a nerf, you can't read. 3P ban protection is ass, but I think it also accomplishes the things they wanted it to do.
Yep.
Like, it kind of dumbs down the game and simplifies it, but I don't think that's, like, a negative from their perspective, right?
Right.
I think that's kind of like the point. What units need to be buffed? Please buff FCC, but please don't ask me what I think should be buffed, because my idea of balance is terrible. In general, I think, like, probably the balance of the game, I don't think I particularly mind it. Like, I don't think I would like it a bunch more if there was nerfs. Anyway, like, I don't think nerfs really change my opinion too much. I also don't really think the main reason why they don't nerf things is because of the selector. Yeah, the compensation, the selector. Like, I don't think them giving out a selector is like ripping their heart out, right? Like, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I don't think they should just nerf the characters and not give any people selectors. I don't think that really matters much. I think the reality of it is that people just don't want to see the characters they like getting nerfed, and that's that.
Yep. All right,
I think it's a matter
you
of
here to host the
conversation.
rest with me?
Sure.
Okay. Let's get WarOfLion in. All right, War. How you doing, man? I see you've been here for a while. I think we got like 3 guys left. You're 3 from the end. What do you want to say today?
It's all good. Don't have a whole lot. I think, well, starting with PFlan, not a nerf at all. It was a buff.
Yep.
So looking at like Alencia, right? I still have her on Lensinox Wrath. That's how I build her, and I like how they're basically taking her own artifact, incorporating it into the kit, and then going from there. For PFlan, I would have liked to see that as well, at least putting the Cease Area artifact on her S1 and then keeping everything the same. Well, I mean, with the buffs that she would have had, but I think incorporating more of the artifacts. So if say 90% of say every PFlan is on Cease Area's artifact. Cool. Let's incorporate that into the kit. Let's open up an artifact slot and give her a new build. I mean, there's a lot of units across the board that are all on the same artifact, and it kind of limits how creative you can get. And yes, you can change it up to some degree, but it's still Met's a Met.
Do you know what my issue with that is? My issue
What?
with that is it doesn't change the Cease Area artifact still being there. So like instead of hitting someone with your Glock for like 12k, like now I can
think
just
it's
bomb somebody
actually,
twice, so I can Glock somebody for like 22k, right?
I think it's actually pretty good that he brought that up, because I do think the PFlan without Caesarea artifact is kind of not human, and Caesarea Artie is like a limited artifact that's not her own, because it's different from like a character like Laya or Lethe, where like the limited Artie is their own Artie, and it's their best in slot, like they need it.
Yep.
This is like a limited artifact. It's not like Guiding Light either, where it's like this artifact is a limited artifact that's good on like a bunch of different characters. No, this is a limited artifact for a character that it's only good on themselves and this ML5. So like, why would you even like realistically have this thing? And it's not the character is just significantly worse if she's not holding it.
Yeah.
She was kind of designed completely around the artifact existing.
Especially with the fact that like they put into her passive that she's supposed to not be able to crit.
Yeah, that was also not human. When she could still crit and her best in slot was still that artifact. Yeah, that wasn't for real.
Yeah, 15% of the times it didn't work. 30% versus dark units. Wow, smilers.
Like what, you just run the what was it, the monk Artie? It's not even technically the monk Artie, but it's the one from the side story that has burns on it, like Seal of Capture.
Seal of Capture, yeah.
Yeah, that thing, like bruh.
Like you could use that, but that's never gonna be as good as the Caesarea one.
I do think they probably should have put a bomb on the S1, and then like if you run the Artie, you have 2 bombs.
Yeah, actually, you know what? That's fine. Yeah,
I think that's way
put
more
a bomb
reasonable.
on the S1, and then if you run the artifact, you get 2 bombs. If you run
can
Seal
run-
of Capture, you
yeah.
still get comparable damage, and you're still getting
You get
a stun
you
out.
get a bomb and a burn. If you can run Guiding Light now. I think it's actually a lot more reasonable if she just had a bomb on the S1.
You're right, but they do need to put Seal of Capture, take it out of the side story, or put it in Book of Memories or something. So
Is
make
it in Book of
evergreen.
Memories? Like I have no idea. Is it there yet?
Let me check. I can check.
Like I literally have no idea.
I'm pretty sure it's not, because I was
Yeah,
looking
Seal
through
of
this
Capture is
yesterday.
literally the fucking Caesarea Artie at home.
Because I don't think we see because it's the Knockwell side story, right? That you get
Yeah.
like throughout the summer 2 years ago.
I think it's in next year. or
Yeah,
something.
it's not in here.
Yeah, it's not here.
Yeah, so actually, yeah, you know what? Yeah, I was originally gonna say something, but that
Yeah,
makes
I
a lot
did
more
say
sense
if you
if
think it's a
just put
nerf,
Seal
you
of
can't
Capture.
read, but yeah. People that did actually play fast PFlan with Soulburn, like that does suck. I think calling it a nerf specifically is kind of like a weird way to word it though. Like I get that it like kills your playstyle, but the overall character is still buffed.
Yeah,
I would
it's
I
definitively
would still never call it a nerf. Like it sucks that your playstyle gets bricked, but I would never use that word.
Yeah, you can't say that, right? Because at the end of the day, this is even something Magnus said on on Reddit, which is like you should balance around the
Yeah, it's one
majority
of my other goats.
over the minority, right? And at the end of the day, there's like 3 guys who play 290 PFlan, and there's like the rest of the player base that play her as a
Yeah, like are they
sustained
supposed to
DPS.
not buff Blood Moon Haste because like some random guy used haste to counter revive units and now he doesn't do that anymore? Like that's
I'm surprised
the-
nobody cried about it during haste. That's the crazy part.
Yeah,
Nobody
of course
cried about
not,
it being
because
too
it
strong.
was fucking haste and no one cared.
Yeah, that's fair. Anything else, War?
Other thing was, someone kind of brought up before, but it's more of consistency is kind of what Smilegate should go for, as in what do they consider consistency? As in, yes, we have 15%, yes, that's a core part of the game, we're okay with that. We have dual attacks, yep, we understand that. They did lower that rate, that's all good too, but when you're talking consistency, what does that mean? How often can you rely on your unit and your build to work? And that, how often are you just going to lose to RNG of some sort, excluding, say, Counter or Elbrus? There's just sometimes you get 15%, sometimes it just doesn't work. Sometimes it's ER not doing ER things. But for buffs and new units and stuff, that's one thing I'd like them to keep in mind going forward, if that makes sense. Just making sure if you build a unit a certain way, it's going to work that certain way.
Oh, I mean, that's the stuff we ask for like every month, right? Like remove 15%, but you know, they're like, it's hard-coded into the game. That's something they've definitively said no to.
Yeah, I think it's fine that's in the game. I don't think
No. Remove it from fucking hunts.
Remove it from PvE. Fuck that.
I don't think it matters there either. Just use strays, bro.
Nah, I'm thinking of my PTSD of like doing Abyss and failing the stage.
Strays, watch that shit.
Because I couldn't land my.
Yeah, bro, we haven't had an Abyss floor in 2 years, bro. Speaking of which, you guys keep asking like what new content you want in the game, bro. Bring back Abyss, please. Bring it back. I want my Abyss rewards, please.
Abyss rewards actually went really fucking
dude,
hard.
Dude, they go so crazy. Like, have you guys looked at the like what we used to get from Abyss, dude? Like, look at Abyss challenge mode, dude. We used to get like bottles and shit and like powder regularly. That shit was so fire.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, Abyss was fun, specifically because the rewards were goddamn flames. Now, missing defense break for like and resetting for 3 hours.
Now, fun is obviously air quotes because I just got off running a Hall of Trials run for Elena before I joined this. Yeah, that shit is so fucking ass. Oh my god, dude. I know probably no one else is actually fucking doing that shit, but basically when you're running that, you have to run Prophetic Candlestick Vivian and pray that when the fucking ads hit you, you proc so you can spam S2 the whole fight. It's so exciting.
But is that better or worse than the Ravi floor where you have to put miss buff on her in order to cheese the fight?
Yeah, that was sick too.
Yeah.
Or, what did she? She also had. Didn't she have a mechanic like if you don't crit her, she like she spazzes out or something? So you had to like build your supports with crit or something.
Yes, I had my.
That shit was awesome.
Oh, you just fucking awoken some repressed memory, bro.
That shit was a good ass floor.
Bro, I remember having to take crit nef off my supports and thinking, now I can forget about this shit and never think about it again. Now you just reminded me, I have to do that for a new fucking account!
Bro, they were cooking with that floor, dude.
You remember taking Dizzy into the, what was it, like, I think 104, so you had missed debuff the little fire priests, so when they did the attack,
yeah, I remember that. That fucking cheese. Yeah, that was awesome, guys.
That was a good cheese right there. Yeah, dude.
Oh my god.
OG Saline floor, yeah, dude, blow my brains out. Before the nerf.
Yes. Oh, the BBK one was the one that really got me.
Yeah, the BBK one too was
break,
also ass. Yep, the BBK one was also fucking ass.
Oh man,
they should still bring it back. By the way, yo, where's Abyss?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Bring it back, but like, that shit was not fun.
Yeah, the LQC floor where she fucking S3s you every turn. That's just so funny.
Dude, you had to actually play maximum CR control.
Bro, her S1 is a S3. Every time she takes a turn, she fucking bombs you.
Oh god. Yeah, that was fucking terrible. All right, War, you got anything else on the docket?
Well, that's really it for the most part. And then,
all right. Well, I mean, I asked everybody this: if you could add one form of new content to either hook in new players or returning players, what would you add?
Actually, I was gonna say Abyss, oddly enough. So I think that they did kind of go back to it a little bit with the new story stuff with the tree thing, where you have the random units and have to do.
I have not done that
stuff.
It's actually really.
It's cool. It's like a super minor Abyss. They give you the units you have to use and stuff too, and Tristan, of course, made a wonderful guide for it.
It's the puzzle stuff, right?
Yeah, they're puzzles. Yeah. They're pretty fun.
I really enjoy that. I mean, something like that going forward, or new Abyss, or it's like a puzzle type of aspect, trying to get it. But again, that's more towards the later end players and everything else too. But something like that would be fun. I think the challenge Abyss thing that came out kind of missed the mark.
Yeah, it was like, I mean, it was kind of nice in that you could like do it once each for each single individual achievement. You know, the clear, oh, do it with these specific units, and then do it once without ever triggering the boss mechanic. Like, it's fine, but the rewards
That's
are
actually a
not
good
it. Like,
point.
we out here for the Abyss rewards. We out here for the level 88 gear, bro.
That's actually a good point. It would be kind of cooler if the Abyss challenge floors were more like the Tria's Genesis, where you have like preset units and it's like a puzzle that you solve. Because like the objectives they make you do are kind of like,
Okay,
they're kind of whatever. Because the
mind.
floors end up being really easy because they're like they're mainly like a comp check. Like you have to bring whatever the hell they tell you to bring, like all 3-star or whatever.
All right, hear me out. Here's my idea, right? We do a new set of content called The Legend of Ainz, where it's just like, it's Ainz going through the story as the protagonist and doing a bunch of these fucking fights against like Archdemon Mercedes and Vildred and all this stuff. And it's like remixed mechanics where you gotta pick from a couple units of like random 3-stars and 4-stars on how to beat like specific like upgraded bosses like strays and shit.
I mean, as long as there's like a canonical way of being able to solve it, I don't see any problems with that, right? Like, you just figure out your turn order, whatever, right? Just don't make it like too specific, like that OQC floor we were talking about, where it's like, do you have Fire Litica? No? Alright, you can just shelf it for now, bro. Come back when you get Fire Litica, Lamau.
I really liked Abyss floor, like, I think it was 114, the Sage Ball floor. Because that floor felt less of a, I hope I don't, like, get 15%ed, and it really was, like, do the mechanic of the floor, and it felt more rewarding. That floor specifically. But every floor after that, I wanted a, KYS in-game, of course.
In Minecraft.
Yeah, in-game.
Dude, remember the Araminta floor? Where it's like the random
yes. The random
the random lantern or whatever.
Yes.
Oh god, that one was
the random bullshit is what I don't like. But when you can figure out what you're supposed to do and do it correctly, like hit the jellyfish slime or whatever.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. I remember. Oh, do you guys remember when the floors were like solvable if you for a while, it was just the Fire Shuri team, and you used to be able to run it up. And then for the last 10 levels, they're like, we're going to make it not Fire Shuriable. And then all you did was Fire Shuri and just hope you procced your dual attacks correctly. you just Fire Shuri'd it anyway, and you're like, but if I proc the dual attacks correctly, we're just fucking chilling.
What? Only have 7 hours left to claim this energy? What the fuck?
Yeah, it was fine. All right, War. I appreciate your time, man. Thank you for the input. If you got anything,
I ripped that already.
Yeah, if you got anything you want me to send to Smilegate, my DMs are always open, man.
No worries. Thank you.
All right. Have a good one, man.
You too. See ya.
All right. We got Poodz, round 2. Poodz, are you gonna say something that contributes to the topic this time, or are you here to be racist?
Poodz, my brother.
Yo, I'm back. But yeah, I think the Smilegate should buff ER.
All right, I'm kicking Poodz, bro.
No. Okay. So I kind of like touched on this with like the interactions between effectiveness and effect res. I do think that is something that needs to change. I agree.
Join the channel. I'll pull you, bro.
Yeah,
Like,
I'll pull him up.
It goes back to that point of like the way it works now is fucking stupid.
Yep. No,
Bro,
I agree.
ER. I mean, it doesn't have as it stands. It's the easy computation is 1:2, right? So they should just buff ER so that.
Oh, fuck ER. Fuck ER. Fuck ER.
Bro, effectiveness buff is so strong. So you don't know how strong it is until you play an ER. Bro,
I think another issue is that like there's a lot of effects that say ignore effect res by pressing Soulburn.
Good.
Yeah.
Fuck ER.
Yeah, that's another
Which I guess makes sense. Like it is really funny watching it's still really funny watching somebody Soulburn their Emerald Time on skill 3 and then or like with angry buff that makes it ignore FRES and then they get 15%.
Yes,
and they 15%.
Yeah,
good
15%
mechanic game.
anyways, right? Yeah, I mean,
it's not even 15, it's 20 because A-Tywin's a bum.
Yeah.
He only has 80% debuffs.
I mean, it's just like, it's something that's baked so deep into the game. Like, how do you even begin to like rework it? Because
By not reworking it.
You
No
can't really
thanks.
rework it.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's
15% is
existed.
fine.
It
Yeah,
existed
15% 's
in
fine.
Summoner's War.
It's already
It exists
there.
in E7. The thing that I think they should remove is speed RNG. I think that can go. I am as someone who's not even that fast in
Yeah,
terms
I think
of like,
speed
arcade
RNG
standpoint.
kind of.
It's like
I think it
speed
aged pretty
RNG 's already-
bad.
Well, speed RNG is already a fucking problem, but the bigger one is when you speed RNG your fucking self.
Yeah, no,
And then you're like,
exactly. So like,
why? Who
so-
wants this? Who?
like, in no world should I like be worried that one, I'm gonna get cut, but two, like my tuning is gonna get fucked because I low rolled my Ran, but I high rolled something else, right?
Yep.
Like that is just, it's so infuriating.
You guys remember that one guy from E7WC Regionals in Japan when he played Green Iceria
I
Laya?
definitely don't.
And the Laya went ahead
Yes.
of the Green Iceria?
That's
Yeah.
his own fault.
That's a fire draft though, no cap.
Yeah, that's his own fault.
He had Iceria on 3,
he did
Laya
play
on 1,
though.
and DC on 5. I thought that shit was pretty flames, no cap.
Also, I don't think 15% being like 15 itself is.
If you
a big
look
deal.
at any
like, I think if it was
studies-
10, I think if it was 10%, I
It's
don't
too
think
low.
that'd make a difference.
Yeah.
No, I just don't think. I just don't think it would make a difference. You probably still bitch about it the same. It's like
Yeah,
when they
you
nerf
you
dual
complain about it
attacks.
until it's completely gone.
It's like when they nerf dual attacks. Like, bro, who actually noticed that dual attacks went down?
Yeah, because you only notice when it's ruining your game, right? When you win normally, you're just like, I deserve this.
Really doesn't
So,
matter.
like,
That's got
to
it.
reference it back to card games, I know, back to card games. It actually
It's okay.
feels
We didn't get
worse
sued
when...
today, so you're our sued.
Yeah, I got you.
He's
But, like,
streaming right now. We could just.
so when a card, like, let's say gets limited by a ban list to one copy in the deck, it feels so much worse when you lose to that one of card. So I think it would kind of feel the same that if, like, it got dropped down to, like, let's say 5%, it would almost feel fucking worse that you got 5%ed.
Yeah, over 15%. Also,
Yeah.
the
Yeah, it
thing I really
definitely
want
does
to
feel worse
reference
if you get
is
fucked by a lower percent. That
if
is
you've
fact.
ever had a look at any studies on statistics, which is like, that's some like giga nerd shit you do in college when you're super fucking bored and you
Bro,
spend way
nobody
too much
knows how
time in
that shit
professors'
actually
office
works,
hours.
like in their head, man. Like you
Yeah.
can tell them know what the number is. It literally doesn't like compute.
Yeah,
in
it's
people's
1
heads.
out of 6. It's a dice roll, which is like, it's roughly, if you feel out how much that is, it's about just enough to be like, oh, that's kind of there, but also high enough so that you're like, okay, that's not going to be a factor most of the time. But yeah, it's some turbo nerd shit, but it's the exact number of like, okay, it's going to happen sometimes. If you want something to happen sometimes, it's always 15% chance for something to happen.
People have mentioned this, and I was talking to Jeremy about this too, but
Yeah.
I would, and not everybody's going to understand what this is, but I think for content to add to, I kind of forgot to bring it up, but Guild War Siege from Summoner's War is probably one of my favorite things in the game in terms of like a kind of community like activity to do within your guild.
Yeah.
I think it's conceptually pretty cool. It's essentially 3v3, so 3 guilds fight off against each other.
Okay.
And-
It's a 3-way free for all, right?
Yeah, and then I'm gonna send you a screenshot real quick.
It's a Splatfest.
While you're grabbing that screenshot too, I'll bring up. So they changed that. They changed Brig, right? So he's
Yeah.
not on the third. He's not at the end of the third path. He's at the end of the first one.
VR.
Yeah. So they moved him, right? But the path is still just as ass as it was before. Like they didn't adjust the lab thing at all.
Yeah,
Like, you still need
I mean,
75
I lodged the
labs to
complaint.
finish
You know,
through.
you do what you
Yeah.
can, right?
It's entering lab 75 times, not using 75 lab tokens. Entering lab 75 times when people have to do fucking hell raid. Like what?
Okay, so the picture that is there is essentially the layout. So you have 3 guilds, and you have like these 12 towers plus your stronghold,
Change Poodz name too.
Yeah.
and you get to put 5 defenses, or up to 5 defenses in every tower.
Yeah.
And as like a collective guild, like you could run like 5 of the same defense in one tower. And then your goal is to, once you hit and take a tower from your opponent, instead of knocking it down, you actually get to fill it with your defenses.
Yep.
And this goes on for 12 hours or 24 hours or whatever, right? So you're taking spots from, like, let's say red. So if we're blue, we're going to be like, cool, we're going to hit red and we're going to try to take red's towers. And red could be like, oh, we're going to hit yellow. And then yellow's like, oh, we're going to hit blue. And it's kind of like this free for all, right? And
Yep.
you accumulate points for however many towers you have. And I just think like this weekly activity, it gives great rewards too. That's the biggest buff to this activity specifically, is it gives pretty good rewards.
Right.
But there's like unique towers too.
Yeah, 4-star towers and different rules to each towers that can be used. So there's a lot of unit diversity in this. You're going to have people who are 4-star specialists in your guild, like absolutely pulling up to this.
It's kind of like what they do in some of the higher tier guilds, but like, or sorry, in E7, like, remember when Lucy was telling about like those trap defenses that they would set where like every fort had the same defense, but they all were slightly different?
Yeah.
You can kind of do the same thing in like the Summoner's War towers, right? Where like they all look the same, but like one unit could be like a Sonya trap, where like there's a unit that ignores defense if its attack is higher. Right. So you build like a unit that looks like I'm just gonna Sonya that, and then the unit that they would target is just on triple defense, like haha, get pants grabbed.
Right.
But like the other towers in it could be normal. So then they're like, oh, I hit this one person with this comp that should have won, but I got Sonya trapped, so maybe I don't Sonya the other teams, and then the other teams just act as normal. It's really cool.
Okay, yeah, I could see that. Yeah, so okay, I think Hez wants to come in and yap a little bit, so I'm gonna drag him in. I think that's gonna be our last one for the day, and then afterwards, if you guys just want to talk about whatever, we can just keep yapping about it. All right, Hez, what's going on? What kind of feedback can we take from you to Smougate that doesn't involve just making a character's titties bigger?
Why are you shutting down half of my thing, bro?
I mean, it's already on the list, you know, like, they just released Luna, you know, they gotta keep things balanced, right?
We talking about a specific one, though, you know, but balance-wise, they need to remove the fighting spirit from my girl APOC, and they need to give her that Fire Ravi HP to attack conversion. You know, give this girl back her legs.
I mean, I think the issue is just like, okay, so you just want that so she's not just gonna die to DDR or ML Shu?
Yeah.
Anything else?
Good take, bro.
Good take.
All right. Would you rather have that, or would you rather have the 30 crit from the passive?
Oh, fuck the 30 crit from the passive. Turn that shit into guaranteed crit.
Yes, 0 crit rate
If you're
APOC.
gonna give her guaranteed crit, yeah, you could take the 30 crit away.
That's
from
why
the
you don't want me doing these balance patches. Like that FCC buff I was talking about earlier, if it's up to me, FCC loads in, she gives your entire team effect skill nullifier.
Bruh.
That's a good take too.
So somebody once said like, oh, you should just make FCC like at the beginning of her turn give like the okay, so the S3 applies a barrier and then move the skill nullifier to the passive every time she takes a turn. I'm like, what the fuck is stopping me from building like my FCC on like 295 speed with all my speed gear, and I'm just gonna speed open with her, apply a barrier, and then I like, if you're not playing at least half of my speed, like you're just never going to do enough damage.
If it's up to me, she gets effect skill nullifier, S3 cleanses. While your teammate has actually fuck effect skill nullifier. While your teammate has a barrier, they're like Vivian. They're immune to debuffs while an ally has a shield on them. Yup.
Y'all motherfuckers going crazy.
Yup.
Yeah, we look. Some people, like, you know, I'll say it too. Like, I try my best, but like I'm only okay at playing the game. Don't ever let me in the balancing chamber, bro. I'll fuck some shit up. No cap.
So another thing I think they need to change is they need to fix Ilanov's passive so it works the way it should have, not the way it does. It should be multiplicative, so it doesn't invalidate Penset.
Oh yeah, so it just doesn't punch Penset in the nuts. It just doesn't like. Okay, yeah, no, that's fine.
It just guts it, but it's still usable. Like, you know, it's just.
Oh, I didn't realize that Penset doesn't actually work.
Yeah, Penset gets turned off.
Yeah,
that's completely. Real funny.
It's additive.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
that's
just,
really funny. Actually, good job, Smougate. Good job, Smougate.
Yeah, that one was like a real like brain fucking like a head scratcher to me.
That character shouldn't have existed at all.
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
That one was a fucking head scratcher. Like, how is it not okay? It's Illinav, right? Like, at least make it so that I don't fucking know. There's like a passive active component where you get hit by defense penetration damage, and suddenly she does a little thing. Now you get a buff, right? Where the buff is what stops the defense pen. But like, god damn, bro.
Yeah, because the way all the pen skills are tuned, they all have really horrible multipliers. So the difference between hitting something that has like 0 defense and something that has like 100 or 200 defense, like you deal significantly less damage. Like 30% pen res is not like at 100% pen skill does 30% less damage. That's not how it works at all.
Yeah, defense in these kinds of games work with diminishing return, right? It's very logarithmic. Like, stuff like Janua is doing like 40% of half of his damage, and then if he doesn't do damage, he's not going back into Wind Rider, he's not snowballing, like, then he's really not doing damage after that. It's kind of insane. It's kind of insane. Anything else, Hez?
And the obligatory, they need to make my...
Okay, of course. Okay, of course. All right. Okay, so from your perspective, right? Because you know, I vaguely hear around here and there you mentioning, right, after the anniversary period, you're probably gonna quit the game. So what kind of content would they release to make you go, shit, okay, I might play this game for a bit longer?
I think the main thing would be a way that I can actually get gear that I give a shit about. But that's kind of specific to me, and that's not going to happen because all I really care about is APOC gear.
So what if they release another wave of like the craft your own gear event? Would that tickle your pickle enough?
No, because they don't let me put more than 3 rolls in HP, and all my gear already has more than 3 rolls of HP.
Okay, well then you're asking for something really specific, but all right.
Yeah,
well,
but I think the bigger thing for me would be stop power creeping so egregiously and just dumpstering on all the old units, so that only the, like, for a while we had new units, there was power creep, and there were very strong units, but they didn't generally completely invalidate all of the old strong units. Maybe they knocked them down a tier, but they didn't just invalidate.
Yeah.
But the trend for like the last year or so has been that like whatever the new OP thing comes out, just completely shits on the old stuff, and more just makes like just the difference between last season and this most recent season. I was able to play my APOC draft all the way up to champion with like a 70% win rate before I even started dropping. And I finished the season Emperor with like a 60-something% win rate doing that. Just last season, I only went to Master, and I was already below a 70% win rate.
Yeah, I mean, that's also on like third pick ban protect, right? Because like that one's not very fun.
I also think third pick ban protect is a mistake. Like, I don't think it makes the game better.
Okay.
So, because RTA is primarily the content that I care about at all in the game anymore. So.
All right, well, thank you for your time. You can feel free to hang out and we can probably yap a little bit more, but that's a lot of content that I've banked up for Smilegate and YouTube, so we're going to call it right here. This is where we're cutting it off, so it doesn't run super long. Thank you, everybody, for showing up, and outro, subscribe. Woo!